The Michelin-starred restaurant hummed with quiet elegance, soft jazz, candlelight, the gentle clink of crystal. I sat across from my husband Derek, watching him sample the wine with the practiced air of someone who belonged in places like this. Our 5th anniversary dinner, at the same restaurant where he'd proposed 6 years ago. To us, Derek raised his glass, his wedding ring catching the light. 5 years of building our dreams together. I clinked my glass against his, the sound hollow as my smile. 3 hours earlier, I'd discovered our emergency fund, $15,000 we'd saved over 3 years, was gone. Every penny transferred to his sister Chloe's account. "You seem quiet," Derek said, cutting into his Wagyu beef. "Everything okay?" Before I could answer, a familiar voice boomed across the restaurant. "There's my little girl." I turned to see my father striding toward us, his silver hair gleaming under the lights. Marcus Sullivan commanded attention wherever he went. 20 years of building a real estate empire will do that. He carried a leather portfolio that I recognized as his business folder. Derek's fork clattered onto his plate. His face went from confused to pale to panicked in 3 seconds flat. "Dad?" I stood to hug him, genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here? Can't a father crash his daughter's anniversary dinner?" He pulled up a chair, settling between us like he owned the place, which, knowing Dad, he probably did. "Derek, how's my favorite son-in-law, Mr. Sullivan?" Derek's voice cracked. "This is unexpected. Marcus, please, we're family." Dad's smile was all teeth. "Though speaking of family, that's actually why I'm here. Wanted to discuss some financial matters with you both." "Dad, it's our anniversary." "I know, sweetheart, that's why this couldn't wait." He opened his portfolio, pulling out a stack of documents. "See, when you two got married, I set up that emergency fund for you, remember?" My blood chilled. Derek looked like he might vomit into his $200 entree. "The $15,000 seed money," Dad continued conversationally, like we were discussing the weather, "to help you build your financial security. Smart couples always have emergency funds. Isn't that right, Derek?" Yes, of course. Funny thing happened today, though." Dad pulled out a printed bank statement. "My accountant noticed some unusual activity. See, I still get notifications on that account, protective father habit. You understand." Imagine my surprise when I saw the entire balance transferred out this morning. Derek grabbed his wine glass with shaking hands. "Mr. Sullivan, I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can, but first, let me tell you what I found when I did a little digging." Dad flipped to another page. "Chloe Morrison, fashion designer, opened an LLC last month called Chloe's Closet Couture, received a $15,000 investment today. What a coincidence." "Dad," I started, but he held up a hand. "The interesting part is what I found when I looked into this fashion business. No inventory purchased, no website, no business plan, but there is a receipt for a vacation package to Bali, 2 weeks, luxury resort, departing next month, exactly $14,750. Derek's face had gone from white to green. "It's not what it looks like." "Really?" Dad leaned back, perfectly at ease. "Because it looks like you stole your wife's emergency fund to pay for your sister's vacation. But please, enlighten me." The waiter approached, sensed the tension, and retreated like he'd encountered a live wire. "It's family money," Derek finally said, straightening his shoulders. "Chloe needed help. Family comes first." "Family?" I found my voice, anger overriding shock. "Derek, that was our emergency fund. What if I lost my job? What if one of us got sick?" "Don't be dramatic, Olivia. We both have good jobs. Chloe's following her dreams. She deserves support, not your greed." "My greed?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "I work 60-hour weeks. I've saved every bonus, every tax return, every penny I could to build that fund. And you call me greedy for wanting to keep our emergency money for actual emergencies? See, this is the problem with your family." Derek turned on Dad. "It's all about money with the Sullivans. Some of us understand that relationships matter more than bank balances." Dad smiled. It was the smile that had terrified boardrooms across the state. "Relationships, let's talk about those." He pulled out another document. Derek Morrison, employed at Nexus Marketing for 18 months. Before that, 3 jobs in 2 years. Current salary, $45,000. "How do you?" Olivia Sullivan Morrison, Senior Marketing Director at Providence Tech. Salary, $135,000 plus bonuses. Contributed 78% of the household income last year. Dad's voice was calm, factual, devastating. "Tell me more about how my daughter's greed is the problem." Derek's face flushed red. "Income doesn't determine." "You're right. Actions do." Dad pulled out his phone, swiping to a series of screenshots. Like the fact that this isn't the first time you've taken money without telling Olivia. The credit card you opened in her name last year? The one you maxed out and hid? I stared at Derek. What credit card? Or the investment you made in your friend's food truck that never materialized? That was what? $8,000 from your joint savings? How could you possibly know? Because when someone hurts my daughter, I make it my business to know everything about them. Dad's friendly mask slipped, revealing steel underneath. Did you really think I'd give my blessing to this marriage without keeping tabs? Derek stood abruptly, napkin falling to the floor. This is insane. Olivia, we're leaving. Sit down, I said quietly. What? Sit down. He sat. The credit card. Explain. Derek fidgeted. It was for Chloe's last business venture, the jewelry thing. I knew you'd say no. So you committed fraud, used my social security number, my credit score, to fund your sister's schemes. She's my sister, and I'm your wife. I slammed my hand on the table, making the glasses jump. Other diners turned to stare. I didn't care. 5 years. Derek. 5 years I've been subsidizing your family's dreams while you call me greedy for wanting basic financial security. That's enough. Dad intervened, pulling out a final document. Olivia, I took the liberty of having my lawyer draw this up. Derek's eyes widened as he recognized the legal header. Are those divorce papers? Dad confirmed, citing financial infidelity, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty, along with a police report for identity theft regarding that credit card. You can't be serious. Derek laughed nervously. Over money? Olivia, baby, let's talk about this at home. I looked at him, really looked at him, the man I'd married 5 years ago. Charming, confident Derek who'd swept me off my feet with romantic gestures and grand promises, who'd gradually convinced me that keeping separate finances meant I didn't trust him, who'd worn me down until I'd agreed to joint accounts, then made me feel guilty every time I questioned his spending. Did you ever love me? I asked. Or just my salary? How can you ask that? Because someone who loves me wouldn't steal from me and call me greedy for objecting. It wasn't stealing. It was family money. No, Dad interjected. It was money Olivia earned and saved. Money you had no right to touch without discussion. Money that, legally speaking, you stole. She's my wife. What's hers is mine. Actually, Dad smiled that dangerous smile again. Remember that prenup you fought so hard against? The one you finally signed because Olivia refused to marry you without it? Paragraph 7, Section 3. Any transfer of marital assets over $5,000 requires written consent from both parties. Derek's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. $15,000. Dad continued, without written consent. That's not just divorce grounds, son, that's criminal. You wouldn't dare. The scandal would destroy your career? Dad laughed. Marketing professional steals from spouse to fund sister's fake business? You'd be unemployable. But hey, maybe Chloe can support you with her fashion empire. I picked up the divorce papers, scanning them quickly. Dad's lawyers were thorough. Fair, but thorough. Where do I sign? Olivia, please. Derek grabbed my hand. This is your father poisoning you against me. We can work this out. I'll get the money back from Chloe. With what? Her Bali tickets are non-refundable. I pulled my hand away. And Dad didn't poison me against you. Derek, you did that yourself when you chose your sister's vacation over our security. Family comes first. I was supposed to be your family. The words ripped out of me. 5 years of frustration finally breaking free. Your primary family. The person you chose to build a life with. But every time Chloe snapped her fingers, you emptied our accounts. Every time your mother needed a loan she'd never repay, you made me the villain for asking questions. They needed help. They needed to grow up. And so do you. I signed the papers with sharp, decisive strokes. I'm done being your ATM. I'm done being called greedy for wanting the security I work for. I'm done with you. Derek stood, knocking his chair back. You'll regret this. When you're alone and realize money can't buy happiness. Money can't buy happiness. I agreed. But it can buy freedom from users like you. He stormed out, leaving his half-eaten meal and unpaid check. Typical. Dad reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I didn't want to do this tonight. But when I saw that transfer this morning, you've been monitoring our accounts this whole time? Just the emergency fund. And only because, he sighed. I had a feeling about Derek from the start. The way he lit up when he learned about the family business. How he pushed for joint everything so fast. I hoped I was wrong. But you weren't. I laughed bitterly. God, how did I not see it? Because you loved him. And love makes us blind sometimes. Dad signaled the waiter. Should we get dessert? Or would you prefer to go home? Home. I need to change the locks. Already done. My security team is there now. They'll have his things packed by morning. I stared at him. How long have you been planning this? Since the credit card incident 6 months ago. I've been documenting everything, building a case. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I wouldn't have believed you. I finished. I'd have defended him. Said you were being overprotective. You needed to see it yourself. To choose yourself. He handed me a key. This is to a safety deposit box. All the evidence is there, bank records, credit reports, documentation of every financial impropriety. Your lawyer will need it. We left the restaurant, Dad's arm around my shoulders. In the parking lot, I stopped by my car, the one I'd paid for myself, unlike Derek's vehicle which I'd co-signed for. Thank you, I said, for protecting me, even when I didn't know I needed it. Always, sweetheart, though next time, maybe we can skip the emergency intervention at anniversary dinners? Next time? I laughed. There won't be a next time. I'm done with charming men who see dollar signs when they look at me. Good. You deserve someone who sees your worth beyond your net worth. As I drove home, to my locked house, my protected assets, my father's fierce love, my phone exploded with texts. From Derek, this isn't over. You can't just throw away 5 years. From Chloe, how could you do this to Derek? He loves me. Family is everything. From Derek's mother, you've ruined my son. All over money, you heartless witch. I blocked them all. The next morning, I woke up in my Derek-free house to an email from my bank. The $15,000 had been frozen pending investigation for fraud. Thanks to Dad's quick action and my signature on the police report, the money would be returned within days. But the real gift wasn't the money. It was the revelation of who Derek really was, and who I was without him. Over the following months, the divorce proceeded smoothly. Derek tried to contest it, claiming emotional distress and demanding alimony. The judge laughed when presented with evidence of his financial crimes. Not only did he get nothing, but he was ordered to pay restitution for the credit card fraud. Chloe's fashion business never materialized. She went to Bali on my dime but returned to find her brother facing criminal charges and her gravy train permanently derailed. She posted a lengthy Instagram rant about how money corrupts families and some people value wealth over love. I valued self-respect over exploitation. There's a difference. A year later, at a charity gala Dad dragged me to, I met someone new, James, a pediatric surgeon who insisted on paying for his own coffee and got genuinely confused when I offered to cover dinner on our third date. I asked you out, he said. Why would you pay? When I explained my history, he listened without judgment, then said, your ex sounds like an idiot. Who steals from someone they love? Someone who loves money more than people, I replied. Then he deserved what he got. James raised his glass, to emergency funds that stay funded, and to partners who understand that family means protecting each other, not exploiting each other. We've been together 2 years now. He's never once asked about my salary, my father's money, or suggested investing in his cousin's startup. He has his own emergency fund, his own retirement accounts, his own financial goals. When his sister needed help with medical bills last year, he asked if I minded if he dipped into his savings to help. His money, his choice, but he asked because we're partners. That's the difference between family and users. Family respects boundaries, users see them as obstacles. Derek eventually married someone else, a woman whose Instagram bio says entrepreneur but whose business is selling essential oils to her high school classmates. Chloe still posts about her fashion dreams between shifts at Target. They're perfect for each other. And me? I keep my emergency fund fully funded, my accounts secure, and my standards high, because Dad was right about one thing. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them. Even if it takes a surprise intervention at your anniversary dinner to finally see it. Especially then.
The first time I noticed something was wrong was during Sunday dinner, when Zoe casually mentioned how quaint it must be to live in the same house for 40 years. Her tone dripped with condescension, but my son James just smiled adoringly at his new wife, completely missing the slight. I'm Alea, and this house has been more than just a home to me. It's where I raised James alone after his father passed, where I nursed my mother through her final days, and where 3 generations of my family have lived and loved. Every crack in the walls tells a story. Every worn floorboard holds a memory. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light as I passed the mashed potatoes, it's been 43 years. My parents bought it when I was 17. Zoe's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her wine glass. That's sweet, but don't you think it's time for something more modern? James and I were just discussing how much potential this place has. I caught Fiona's eye across the table. My best friend's eyebrows shot up, but she kept quiet. She'd been coming to these Sunday dinners for 20 years, and I could tell she was as thrown by Zoe's comment as I was. "The house is perfect as it is," James said quickly, but there was something uncertain in his voice that made my stomach clench. "Of course it is, honey." Zoe patted his hand. "I just think with some updates, we could really increase its value. The market in this neighborhood is incredible right now." "Its value?" I set down my fork. "Are you planning to sell it?" "Mom," James interrupted, "nobody's selling anything. Zoe's just thinking about the future, that's all." The future. 6 months ago, the future had seemed so clear. James had met Zoe at his accounting firm, and their whirlwind romance had swept us all along. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to make my son happier than I'd ever seen him. But lately, something felt off. "I brought dessert," Fiona announced, breaking the tension. "Alea, help me serve." In the kitchen, Fiona grabbed my arm. "Did you hear that? Increase its value? Who talks like that about someone else's home?" I pulled plates from the cabinet, trying to keep my hands steady. "Maybe I'm being oversensitive. She's young, successful, probably just thinks differently about property. Or maybe she's showing her true colors." Fiona lowered her voice. "Have you noticed how she's been rearranging things? Last week she moved your family photos from the living room. She said it would look more modern." "In your house, Alea. Your house." Back in the dining room, Zoe was on her phone, speaking in hushed tones. "Perfect timing, actually. No, trust me, it's practically a done deal." She looked up, quickly ending the call as we entered. "Who was that, sweetheart?" James asked. "Oh, just work." She smiled brightly. "You know how it is, always something coming up." I served the apple pie my mother taught me to make, the recipe passed down like this house, like the memories within its walls. Zoe took one bite and pushed it aside. "I should really watch my sugar intake," she said. "But James, honey, remember that realtor I mentioned? She's free tomorrow if you want to meet her." "Realtor?" I nearly dropped my fork. "What realtor?" James shifted uncomfortably. "It's nothing, Mom. Zoe just thought it might be helpful to get an assessment. You know, for insurance purposes." "Insurance purposes!" I repeated the word slowly, watching Zoe's face. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I caught a glimpse of something calculating in her eyes. "Exactly," she said smoothly. "It's important to know what you're sitting on, isn't it? Especially in a neighborhood like this. Properties like this are opportunities." The word hung in the air like a threat. Fiona cleared her throat, but before she could speak, Zoe's phone buzzed again. "I really should take this," she said, standing. "James, coming?" My son followed her like a puppy, leaving Fiona and me staring at half-eaten pieces of pie. "Alea," Fiona said quietly, "I don't want to alarm you, but I've seen this before. My sister lost her house to a manipulative daughter-in-law. Started just like this, casual comments, subtle suggestions." I looked around my dining room, at the walls that had witnessed countless family meals, at the window where I used to watch James play as a child. "She's not getting my house, Fiona." "No," my friend agreed, her voice hardening. "She's not, but you need to be careful, very careful." As if on cue, Zoe's laugh drifted in from the living room, followed by words that made my blood run cold. "Don't worry about her. She has no idea what's coming." I never meant to snoop through James's study, but when I heard whispers through the door while cleaning, my hand froze on the doorknob. Zoe was inside, talking on her phone again. "Everything's proceeding perfectly," she said. "The old lady trusts me completely. James, please, he's so desperate for approval he'd sign anything I put in front of him." My heart pounded as I eased the door open just a crack. Zoe was rifling through James's desk, pulling out folders. The property assessment came back even higher than we expected, she continued. Once we get her to sign over her rights? Yes, exactly. We can flip it immediately. The developers are already interested. I must have made a sound because she suddenly went quiet. I hurried down the hallway, my cleaning supplies clutched to my chest, and didn't stop until I reached the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I called Fiona. I need your help, I said. Remember how you used to work for that private investigator? Say no more, Fiona replied. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She arrived with her laptop and a determined expression. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped James with his homework all those years ago. First things first, Fiona said, typing rapidly. Let's see what we can find about our dear Zoe's past. Hours later, we stared at the screen in disbelief. 3 failed businesses, Fiona read. 2 bankruptcies. And look at this, she was involved in a lawsuit over a property scheme in Florida. What kind of scheme? She convinced an elderly couple to sign over their beach house for estate planning purposes, sold it right from under them. My hands shook as I poured more coffee. We need to tell James. Not yet, Fiona warned. He's too in love to see clearly. We need concrete proof. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Colin, my neighbor from across the street. Alea, he said, looking troubled. I think you should know. I saw some men in suits looking at your house yesterday. They were taking measurements of the property line. Did they say who they were? Development company. Your daughter-in-law was with them. I invited him in, and he sat heavily at the table. There's more. I overheard them discussing demolition costs. Demolition? My voice cracked. They want to tear down my house? The whole block, actually. They're planning luxury condos. Fiona's fingers flew across the keyboard. Got it. Highland Development Group. And look who's listed as their new real estate consultant, Zoe Harper, as of 2 months ago. Before she married James, I whispered. That's not all, Fiona said grimly. I found something in her social media, posted 6 months ago. Found the perfect mark. Time to play the long game. The date matched exactly when she'd met James. My neighbor leaned forward. Aaliyah, I've lived here 30 years. We all know what this house means to you. What do you need from us? Before I could answer, I heard a key in the front door. James's voice called out, Mom, you home? Quick, I hissed. Fiona slammed her laptop shut as Colin stood. Just dropping off some mail that was misdelivered, he said loudly as James entered the kitchen. Oh, hey everyone, James said, then frowned. Mom, why do you look so upset? Just tired, honey. I forced a smile. How was work? Good. Actually, Zoe and I wanted to talk to you about something. She's found this great estate lawyer who can help us sort out the house situation. Make everything more official. Official? I kept my voice steady. Yeah, for inheritance purposes. Zoe thinks it would be better to handle it now rather than later. The lawyer's coming by tomorrow. After James left, Fiona grabbed my hand. We need to call Caleb. Caleb? But he's just a family friend. Who happens to be the best real estate lawyer in the city? Trust me, we're going to need him. I nodded slowly, remembering the determined look in Zoe's eyes when she'd first toured my house, the way she'd measured every room with her gaze. Make the call, I said. As Fiona dialed, I found myself staring at the family photos Zoe had tried to hide away. There was James on his first bike, my parents on their 50th anniversary, all the memories she wanted to bulldoze for her luxury condos. Caleb, it's Fiona. We need your help. Remember Alea? Well, her daughter-in-law is trying to pull something, and we need to set a trap. I listened as Fiona explained the situation, watched as Caleb's name appeared on her screen for a video call. For the first time since I'd overheard Zoe's phone conversation, I felt a spark of hope. "Don't worry," Caleb's voice came through clear and determined. "I've seen this before, and I know exactly how to handle it." "The key is to let her think she's winning," Caleb explained, spreading documents across my dining room table. "These are the papers she'll want you to sign tomorrow, but these," he pulled out another set, "are what you'll actually be signing." "I don't understand," I said, studying both sets. "They look identical." "That's the point." Caleb tapped the second stack. "But these have a special clause. The moment she attempts to sell or develop the property without your explicit written consent, everything reverts to you exclusively. Plus, it triggers an immediate fraud investigation." Fiona grinned. "Brilliant. She won't even read the fine print. She'll be too excited thinking she's won." "But James," my voice caught. "He'll be devastated." "Better devastated than bankrupted," Caleb said gently. "I've seen the financial records Fiona dug up. Zoe's planning to drain him dry along with taking your house." A knock at the door made us all jump. It was Colin again, looking agitated. "Those developers are back," he reported. "They're measuring the front yard now. Zoe's with them, showing them something on her tablet." I walked to the window. Sure enough, there they were, men in expensive suits, walking my property like they already owned it. Zoe stood among them in her designer clothes, gesturing enthusiastically. "Perfect timing," Caleb said. "Let's give her something to get excited about. Alea, go out there. Tell her you've been thinking about what she said regarding estate planning." My hands trembled as I opened the front door. Zoe's face shifted from annoyance to false warmth when she saw me. "Oh, Alea, I was just showing these gentlemen your lovely garden. They're landscape architects." "How nice," I said, forcing my voice to waver slightly. "Actually, Zoe dear, I've been thinking about what you said, about making things official." Her eyes lit up like a shark spotting blood in the water. "Really? Oh, that's wonderful. I was so hoping you'd come around. These things are so important to sort out." "Yes, well, getting older makes one think." I wrung my hands for effect. "Perhaps we could meet with that lawyer you mentioned. Tomorrow, maybe?" "Tomorrow? Yes, absolutely." She practically bounced on her expensive heels. "I'll call him right away. This is so perfect. I mean, so sensible of you." Back inside, Caleb nodded approvingly. "You played that perfectly. Now, let's go over exactly how tomorrow will work." We spent the next hour rehearsing. Caleb taught me how to appear hesitant but compliant, how to ask just enough questions to seem concerned but not suspicious. "The moment she sees you wavering," he explained, "she'll push harder. That's when we'll have her." "What about James?" I asked again. "He'll be there too." "Actually, he won't." Fiona held up her phone. "I just got a text from my niece at his office. Zoe arranged for him to be sent to an urgent client meeting tomorrow afternoon." My stomach churned. "She's making sure he's not here for the signing." "More evidence of her deception," Caleb said firmly. "We're doing this to protect both you and James." That evening, after everyone left, I sat in my living room looking at old photos. There was one of James on his wedding day, beaming at Zoe like she hung the moon. My son, who'd always worn his heart on his sleeve, just like his father. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "So happy you're being reasonable about this. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't worry about a thing. I'll handle everything." I bet you will, I thought, but typed back, "Thank you, dear. You're so good to help with all this." Another buzz, this time from Caleb. "Everything's set. Remember, let her think she's in control. We'll be right next door at Colin's house." I walked through my home that night, touching the walls, remembering. The height marks showing James's growth in the kitchen door frame. The dent in the living room wall from when he tried to learn juggling. The garden his father planted, where I still grew tomatoes every summer. Not this time, I whispered to the empty house. She's not taking you from us. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Fiona. Just drove past. Zoe's outside with those developers again. They're drinking champagne in their car. I smiled, thinking of the trap we'd set, of Caleb's carefully worded documents waiting in his briefcase. Let them drink their champagne. Let them celebrate too early. Tomorrow, they'd learn what happens when you underestimate a mother protecting her home. The lawyer Zoe brought looked exactly as I'd expected. Expensive suit, practiced smile, and eyes that never quite met mine. He spread the papers across my dining room table while Zoe hovered nearby, practically vibrating with poorly concealed excitement. It's really quite simple, he explained, pointing to various sections. Just a standard transfer of property for estate planning purposes. And this protects my son? I asked, using the trembling voice Caleb had helped me practice. Of course, Zoe jumped in. That's what this is all about, family protection. I noticed she'd already started making changes to my home. The family photos were completely gone now, replaced by generic modern art. She'd even rearranged my furniture, pushing my favorite reading chair into a corner. I just need a moment, I said, standing up, to get some water. In the kitchen, I sent a quick text to Caleb. We're starting. They brought their own papers. His response was immediate. Perfect. Let them present first, then mention you had your own lawyer review some documents. When I returned, Zoe was on her phone, speaking in hushed tones. Yes, everything's proceeding as planned. The old lady's about to... Oh, she's back. Got to go. I pretended not to hear, settling back into my chair with shaking hands, this time from genuine anger rather than acting. Before we begin, I said, I had a family friend look over some similar documents. He's a lawyer, too. Would you mind reviewing them? The flash of panic on Zoe's face was quickly masked. Oh, we don't need a second opinion. These papers are completely standard. Still, I insisted, pulling out Caleb's documents. I'd feel better. The lawyer reluctantly took them, scanning the pages. His eyebrows rose slightly. He was good, but not good enough to hide his surprise at the sophisticated legal framework Caleb had constructed. These seem quite thorough, he said carefully. Is there a problem? Zoe's voice had an edge now. Not at all, I said, channeling every ounce of naivety I could muster. They're just for protection, right? Like you said. Zoe and her lawyer exchanged glances. After a whispered consultation, they agreed to use my documents, exactly as Caleb had predicted. They were too confident in their scheme to imagine I could outmaneuver them. The moment after I signed, Zoe's entire demeanor changed. She pulled out her phone, rapidly typing. I'm thinking we'll start with the kitchen, she announced. I've already contacted contractors. That awful old stove has to go. But I still live here, I protested. For now, she didn't even try to hide her smirk. But let's be realistic. At your age, wouldn't you be more comfortable in a nice retirement community? I know several excellent ones. A text buzzed on her phone. She read it and actually clapped her hands. Perfect. The developers can start surveying tomorrow. We'll need you to clear out within 30 days. Developers? I forced my voice to crack. What developers? Oh, didn't James tell you? This whole block is being redeveloped. Your house will be demolished, but don't worry. The condos they're building will be beautiful. Of course, you won't be able to afford one, but that's life, isn't it? The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should discuss this later. Why? Zoe laughed. It's done. She signed. This house and property are under my control now. She turned to me with false sympathy. I know change is hard at your age, but you'll adjust. Maybe if you're lucky, James will let you visit once the new condos are built. My phone buzzed. Fiona, just saw James's car pull up. Perfect timing. The front door opened and James called out, Mom, why is there a developer's truck outside? Zoe's face went pale. You're supposed to be at that client meeting. It was canceled. James entered the dining room, taking in the scene, the papers, the lawyer, my devastated expression, and Zoe's barely concealed triumph. What's going on here? Your mother's just signed some estate planning documents, Zoe said quickly. Everything's fine. Estate planning? James picked up the papers. Then why does this mention Highland Development Group? Don't worry about that, honey. It's all being handled. Handled? James's voice rose. Like how you handled that meeting cancellation? I just found out you arranged it yourself. Zoe's mask slipped completely. You're overreacting. This is business, a fantastic opportunity. Your mother's fine with it, aren't you, Alea? I said nothing, watching my son's face as he read through the documents, seeing the moment realization dawned. You're trying to sell my mother's house? His hands were shaking. Behind my back? Not trying, Zoe snapped, her pretense finally dropping entirely. Already done, and there's nothing any of you can do about it. I smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Actually, I said quietly, that's where you're wrong. What do you mean, wrong? Zoe's voice had lost its smooth confidence. You signed the papers. It's done. Did you actually read what I signed? I asked, standing up slowly. Every word, every clause? Her lawyer grabbed the documents, scanning them more carefully this time. His face went ashen. Ms. Harper, we need to talk. Now. What? She snatched the papers from him. These aren't the same documents we prepared. James looked between us, confusion turning to anger. You prepared documents without telling me? Honey, please, Zoe backpedaled. This is all just a misunderstanding. The front door opened again. Caleb walked in, followed by Fiona and Colin. Actually, Caleb said, it's a very clear understanding. Those documents your wife just tried to rush through, they're evidence of attempted property fraud. That's ridiculous. Zoe spun toward her lawyer. Tell them. But he was already packing his briefcase. I suggest you get separate representation, Ms. Harper. I want no part of this. Part of what? James demanded. Will someone please explain what's happening? I nodded to Colin, who pulled out his phone. I've been recording Zoe's meetings with the developers. Would you like to hear what your wife says about you when you're not around? He pressed play. Zoe's voice filled the room. James is just a means to an end. Once we get the property, we can push him out too. He's as naive as his mother. James staggered back like he'd been physically struck. Zoe? It's not what you think, she said quickly. They're taking this out of context. Really? Fiona pulled out her laptop. Then let's add some context. Like your social media posts about finding the perfect mark right when you met James, or your new job with Highland Development, which you conveniently never mentioned, or maybe your previous property fraud cases. Previous cases? James whispered. She's done this before, I said gently. In Florida, another family lost their home. You can't prove anything. Zoe's composure cracked completely. This is all circumstantial. That's why I installed cameras, I said quietly. After you started moving my things, holding secret meetings in my house, I decided to protect myself. I nodded to Caleb, who connected his tablet to my TV. The screen flickered to life, showing Zoe in my living room just yesterday, speaking to the developers. Once we get the old lady's signature, demolition can start immediately. She doesn't know the documents give me full control. James? Please, he's so blindly in love, he won't realize what's happening until it's too late. By then, we'll have flipped the property, and I'll be done with this whole family. The room fell silent except for James's ragged breathing. I trusted you, he said finally. I loved you. James, baby, please, get out. His voice was ice. Get out of my mother's house. You can't actually, Caleb interrupted. He can. The documents your wife just signed, they include an immediate eviction clause triggered by any evidence of fraud, which we now have in abundance. This isn't over, Zoe snarled, grabbing her purse. I'll fight this. Go ahead, I said calmly. The police would love to see all our evidence. I'm sure your previous victims would too. She stormed out, heels clicking furiously on my hardwood floors. Her lawyer followed quickly, avoiding everyone's eyes. James collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know, honey. I touched his shoulder gently. She fooled a lot of people. The developers, he said suddenly, looking up. They're still coming tomorrow. No, Caleb smiled. They're not. Once they see these documents and evidence of fraud, they'll run for the hills. No legitimate company wants this kind of scandal. Fiona started gathering up papers. We should get these somewhere safe. Zoe might try something desperate. Already handled, Caleb said. I've filed copies with the court and sent everything to the FBI's Real Estate Fraud Division. They were very interested in adding this to their existing file on Ms. Harper. Existing file? James looked sick. How did I not see any of this? Because she's very good at what she does, Colin said kindly, but not good enough to fool a mother's instincts. I looked around my living room, at the spaces where my family photos would soon return, at my son's devastated but relieved face, at my friends who had helped save my home. She thought I was just a helpless old lady, I said. That was her biggest mistake. The next morning, I found James in his old bedroom, sitting on the floor surrounded by moving boxes. He'd spent the night there, unable to face the condo he shared with Zoe. Look what I found, he said, holding up a worn notebook, my old journal from college. I sat beside him on the floor, ignoring my creaking joints. He flipped through the pages, then stopped suddenly. There's a new entry here, from last week. His voice cracked as he read. Something feels wrong. The way Zoe talks about Mom's house, the secret phone calls, the meetings she thinks I don't know about. But what if I'm just being paranoid? What if questioning this ruins everything? A knock at the door interrupted us. Through the window, I saw Zoe standing on my porch, wearing her most expensive suit. Don't answer it, James said quickly. We have to. I squeezed his hand. Caleb said to record everything from now on. I opened the door. Zoe's makeup was perfect, but her eyes were wild. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the house. James, baby, I know you're here. Don't call me that. James emerged from the hallway, journal still in his hand. This is all a misunderstanding, she said, reaching for him. I can explain everything. Like you explained to the developers how you were going to scam my mother, or like you explained to your friends how naive I am. Those recordings are taken out of context. She spun toward me. This is your fault. You turned him against me. You did that yourself, I said calmly, pressing record on my phone. Every lie, every secret meeting, every manipulation, those were your choices. Choices? She laughed hysterically. You want to talk about choices? Fine. James, your mother's been manipulating you your whole life, keeping you close, making you feel guilty about this stupid house. Stop it, James snapped. Just stop. No, you stop. Wake up. This was a business opportunity. A good one. But you're too blinded by Mommy's guilt trips to see it. We could have been rich. By destroying my family home? By lying to me? Oh, please, she sneered. You knew something was wrong. I saw your pathetic little journal entries. But you were so desperate to believe in our perfect marriage that you ignored every red flag. James went pale. You read my journal? Of course I did. I had to make sure you weren't catching on too quickly. Had to keep you distracted with date nights and future plans while I set everything up. Set what up exactly? I asked, making sure my phone caught every word. All of it. She was practically shouting now. The job with Highland Development, the marriage, everything. Do you know how long I worked to find the perfect property? The perfect mark. Then I find out about James, single, desperate for love, with a mother sitting on prime real estate. She stopped suddenly, realizing what she was admitting. Keep going, James said quietly. Tell us how you really feel. I didn't mean, yes you did. He opened the journal. Want to hear what else you didn't mean? The lies about business trips when you were meeting developers? The work calls that were actually plotting sessions? James, get out. His voice shook. Get out before I call the police. You can't prove anything. Actually, Caleb's voice came from the doorway. He just did. He held up his own phone, recording. Confession of premeditated fraud caught on multiple devices. The FBI will be very interested. Zoe's face contorted. You're all gonna regret this. I have connections. Like these? Fiona walked in behind Caleb, carrying a stack of papers. Your connections turned on you the moment we showed them the evidence. Highland Development just terminated your contract. They're cooperating fully with investigators. No? Zoe stumbled backward. No, this isn't happening. It is, I said. And Zoe, you were wrong about one thing. This isn't just a house. It's a home, something you clearly wouldn't understand. She ran out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Through the curtains, I watched her speed away in her expensive car. James slumped against the wall. I'm such an idiot. No, I said firmly. You're someone who wanted to believe in love. That's not idiotic. It's human. The police will want to talk to both of you, Caleb said gently, and there will probably be a trial. Good. James straightened up. I want everyone to know what she tried to do, what she's probably done to others. I looked at my son, hurt but standing tall, betrayed but fighting back, and felt a fierce pride. We'll face it together, I said. That's what family does. Real family, he agreed, putting the journal away. Not the fake kind that comes with hidden agendas. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Zoe strode in, still wearing designer clothes, but noticeably less polished than before. 3 months had passed since her confession in my living room, and now we were all here for the final hearing. All rise, the bailiff called out. James sat beside me, his knuckles white as he gripped the bench. Behind us, Fiona, Colin, and Caleb filled the row in silent support. How can she look so confident? James whispered as Zoe took her seat. After everything they found? The evidence had been damning. Once the FBI started digging, they uncovered a pattern stretching back years. Multiple properties, multiple victims, all carefully documented in Zoe's meticulous files. The judge cleared his throat. Before we proceed with sentencing, would any of the victims like to make a statement? An elderly couple from Florida went first, describing how Zoe had taken their beach house. Then a widow from Arizona, tears streaming as she recounted losing her family ranch. Finally, it was our turn. The defendant didn't just try to steal my home, I said, standing slowly. She tried to destroy my family. She married my son as part of her scheme, used his love as a weapon against both of us. Zoe's smirk faltered for the first time. But she underestimated us, I continued. She thought age meant weakness. She thought a mother's love could be overcome by greed. She was wrong. Objection, Zoe's lawyer called out. This is inflammatory. Overruled, the judge said. Continue, ma'am. I'm not asking for revenge, I said. I'm asking for justice. Not just for me and my son, but for everyone she's hurt. Everyone she saw as nothing more than marks to be exploited. James stood next. His voice shook at first but grew stronger with each word. "I loved you," he said directly to Zoe. "I thought we had a future together, but our entire marriage was just part of your con. You didn't just try to steal my mother's house. You stole a year of my life, my trust, my ability to believe in love." Zoe finally spoke up. "This is ridiculous. It was business, nothing more. They're painting me as some kind of monster." "Ms. Harper," the judge interrupted sharply, "you'll have your chance to speak." When her turn came, Zoe's performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears, trembling voice, claims of misunderstanding, and good intentions. But the evidence told a different story. The recorded conversations, the fraudulent documents, the paper trail of previous scams. "Your Honor," Caleb stood, presenting one final piece of evidence. "We've just received this from the FBI. Bank records showing Ms. Harper attempted to transfer funds from her latest property scheme even after her arrest. She's still trying to profit from her victims." Zoe's facade cracked completely. "You don't understand. These people are sitting on gold mines, too stupid to see the potential." "That's enough," the judge cut in. "I've heard everything I need to hear." He shuffled his papers, then looked directly at Zoe. "Ms. Harper, your actions show a pattern of calculated deception and criminal intent that this court cannot ignore." The sentence came down like a thunderbolt. 8 years in federal prison, full restitution to all victims, and a lifetime ban from real estate transactions. "No!" Zoe shrieked as officers approached. "You can't do this. I have rights." "So did all the people you stole from," the judge replied coldly. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. "James, baby, please, don't let them do this." But James stood firm, his arm around my shoulders. "Goodbye, Zoe." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Caleb handled most of the questions, while Fiona and Colin ran interference. "How does it feel to be the ones who finally stopped her?" someone shouted. "It feels like justice," I said simply, "not just for us, but for everyone she hurt." Later that evening, we all gathered in my living room, the same room where Zoe had revealed her true nature months ago. The family photos were back on the walls, my furniture returned to its proper places. "I found something else," James said, pulling out an envelope. "Zoe's divorce papers, already signed." "Good riddance," Fiona muttered. "To new beginnings." Colin raised his glass. I watched my son smile, really smile, for the first time in months. The shadows hadn't completely left his eyes, but they were fading. "Mom," he said quietly, "I'm sorry I ever doubted—" "Don't," I interrupted. "You loved her. That's nothing to apologize for." "The house is safe now," Caleb added. "I've added extra legal protections. No one will ever be able to pull something like this again." I looked around at my family, not just James, but all of them. The people who had stood by us, fought for us, believed in us. "She thought she was taking a house," I said. "She never understood she was taking on a family." The morning sun streamed through my kitchen windows as I watered the tomato plants on the windowsill, tiny seedlings from my garden, now safely growing indoors as winter approached. The coffee maker gurgled, filling the house with its familiar aroma. A knock at the door revealed James, carrying a box of old photos and a newspaper. "Have you seen this?" He spread the paper on the kitchen table. The headline read, "Property Fraud Ring Exposed. Former Real Estate Agent's Conviction Leads to Broader Investigation." "Highland Development CEO was arrested this morning," James said, pouring coffee. "Turns out Zoe wasn't the only one running these scams. She was just their most successful operative." "Until she met us," I smiled, setting out breakfast plates. The doorbell rang again, This time it was Margaret, the widow from Arizona, who had testified at Zoe's trial. She'd flown in specially for today. "The movers are bringing my furniture back tomorrow," she beamed. "Thanks to the restitution order, I'm getting my ranch back." More people arrived. Fiona with fresh muffins, Colin carrying folders, Caleb in his usual suit. Soon my kitchen was full of chatter and life. "The support group starts next week," Margaret announced, spreading papers across my table. "For victims of property fraud. We've already got 15 members." "And the foundation?" Caleb asked. "Ready to launch," I confirmed. "James did all the paperwork." The foundation had been James's idea, using part of the restitution money to help other fraud victims fight back. My house, which Zoe had seen as nothing but profit potential, would now host monthly meetings for people fighting to save their own homes. "First case is already lined up," Colin said. "Family in Oregon, similar situation to yours. Developer trying to force them out through fraudulent paperwork." "We'll stop them," James said firmly, "just like we stopped Zoe." The doorbell chimed again. This time it was a young couple, clutching paperwork and looking nervous. "Please come in," I said warmly. "You must be the Thompsons. Caleb told us about your situation." "We didn't know where else to turn," Mrs. Thompson whispered. "The bank says our signatures are on sale documents we never signed." "You're in the right place," James assured them. "Show us everything." As everyone gathered around my dining room table, the same table where Zoe had tried to trick me with fraudulent documents, I watched James spread out the Thompsons' papers, explaining terms, pointing out red flags. His pain had become purpose. "Mom?" He looked up. "Can you tell them what to watch for? The little signs we missed at first?" "Of course." I sat beside Mrs. Thompson. "First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong." The morning turned to afternoon as we worked. More people dropped by, other victims from Zoe's trial, neighbors who'd helped gather evidence, even the FBI agent who'd handled our case, bringing updates on the expanding investigation. "Your case broke it wide open," she explained. "We've identified 30 more victims across 6 states. And they'll all get justice," Caleb added. "The precedent from Zoe's trial makes these cases much stronger." As the sun began to set, I stood in my doorway watching everyone leave. The Thompsons looked hopeful now, armed with knowledge and support. Margaret was discussing ranch renovation plans with Colin. Fiona and Caleb were already reviewing the next case. James lingered behind, gathering the empty coffee cups. "You know what Zoe never understood?" he said, placing them in the sink. "A house isn't just walls and property value. It's memories and family and love. And now it's something else too," I added. "A place where people can find help and hope." He hugged me tightly. "I'm staying for dinner. We can go through those old photos I brought." As we sat at the kitchen table, sorting through memories while new tomatoes grew on the windowsill, I thought about Zoe sitting in her prison cell. She'd tried to take my home, but instead, she'd given us a mission. The doorbell rang one final time. Another family stood on my porch, papers in hand, fear in their eyes, but hope in their hearts. "Come in," I said, opening my door wide. "Tell us your story. We can help." Because that's what this house had become, not just my home, but a beacon for others. Every person Zoe had seen as a target, we would see as family. Every house she'd viewed as profit, we would help protect as a home. That was our revenge, and it was sweeter than anything she could have imagined.
The weight of my father's casket seemed lighter than the burden of disappointment I carried that day. Rain pelted the black umbrellas around me as we lowered him into the ground, but I barely noticed. I was too focused on my brother Zane's hand on my mother's shoulder, his perfectly pressed suit, and that familiar smug expression I'd grown to despise. "My name is Tabitha, and I spent 29 years trying to earn my father's approval." Now he was gone, and I'd never get the chance. The reading of the will shall commence in the study, Logan, our family lawyer, announced as mourners began dispersing. His voice carried the same clinical detachment he'd maintained throughout the service. I followed the small procession into my childhood home, my heels clicking against the hardwood floors. The study still smelled like Dad's cigars and leather-bound books. Mom settled into his old armchair, while Zane perched on the desk's edge like he already owned it. I chose to stand. "Shall we begin?" Logan adjusted his glasses and pulled out a thick envelope. "Get on with it," Zane said, checking his watch. "I have a business meeting at 4. Mom shot him an adoring look. "Always the dedicated one, just like your father." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Dedicated. Zane hadn't visited Dad once during his final months of chemotherapy. I was the one who drove him to appointments, managed his medications, and held his hand through the worst nights. Logan cleared his throat and began reading. I, Richard West, being of sound mind. The next 10 minutes were a blur of legal jargon until the words that changed everything. "To my son, Zane, I leave my entire estate, including the family business, all properties, and financial holdings." The room went silent. I waited for the "and to my daughter" part, but it never came. "That's it?" I heard myself ask. "There must be more." Logan shook his head. "I'm afraid that's all, Miss Tabitha." "Well, that's settled then." Zane stood up, straightening his tie. "I'll have my assistant contact you about the paperwork." "Honey," Mom reached for my hand, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Your father knew what he was doing. Zane has the business experience to handle the estate." I yanked my hand away. "Business experience? He's run every venture he's touched into the ground. Dad knew that." Now, Zane smirked. "Don't be bitter, little sister. I'll make sure you're taken care of." "Like hell you will." I turned to Logan. "This can't be legal. I want to contest the will." Logan shifted uncomfortably. "You can try, but everything appears to be in order." I stormed out of the study, but not before catching a snippet of conversation that made me freeze. "The Jensen account," Logan whispered to Zane. "Your father left specific instructions about—" "I know how to handle my father's business," Zane cut him off sharply. Something in Logan's tone made my skin prickle. I lingered just outside the door, straining to hear more. "The debts need to be—" "That's enough, Logan." Zane's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. I said I'll handle it. I pulled out my phone and texted Michael. "Need to talk, now, it's bad." His response was immediate. "Corner booth at Joey's in 20. On my way." As I grabbed my purse, Mom appeared in the hallway. "Tabitha, don't make a scene. Your father wanted—" "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't tell me what Dad wanted. He had months to tell me himself, but he chose not to. Just like he chose to leave me nothing." "You're being dramatic. Zane will take care of everything." I laughed bitterly. "Yeah, just like he took care of Dad during his treatment. Or like he took care of that tech startup he crashed last year. That wasn't his fault. The market. Save it." I headed for the door. "I need some air." As I stepped outside, the rain had stopped, but dark clouds still loomed overhead. My phone buzzed with a text from Jamal at work. "Sorry about your dad. Take all the time you need." I typed back. "Actually, I'll be in tomorrow. Need to focus on something else." Walking to my car, I caught sight of Zane through the study window, already sitting in Dad's chair, feet up on the desk. The familiar anger rose in my throat, but this time, something else came with it. Determination. I'd overheard enough to know there were problems lurking beneath the surface of Dad's perfect legacy, and if Zane was going to crash and burn, I wanted a front row seat. But first, I needed to talk to Michael. He'd help me figure out what that Jensen account was all about, and why it had Logan so worried. Something told me I'd just stumbled onto the tip of a very large iceberg. Joey's diner hadn't changed in the 15 years Michael and I had been meeting there. The same cracked leather booths, the same flickering neon sign, the same coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since morning. "He left you nothing." Michael pushed his untouched plate of fries toward me. Not even a token inheritance. I grabbed a fry and dunked it in ketchup. Nothing. But that's not even the weird part. I overheard Logan talking about some Jensen account, and Zane shut him down fast. Like, suspiciously fast. Jensen. Michael pulled out his phone and started typing. As my best friend and a financial analyst, he had access to information most people didn't. Give me a minute. The waitress stopped by to refill our coffee cups. You okay, honey? You look like you've been crying. Just buried my father today, Rita. She squeezed my shoulder. This one's on the house then. Michael looked up from his phone. Found something. Jensen Industrial was one of your dad's biggest clients. They filed for bankruptcy protection last year. And your dad's company was their primary creditor. We're talking millions in outstanding payments. I felt the blood drain from my face. So when Dad left everything to Zane, he also left him a massive financial nightmare. Michael leaned forward. Tabitha, this could sink the entire company if it's not handled right. My phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call. She's probably wondering why I'm not home consoling Zane, I muttered. Speaking of home, Michael said carefully, what are you going to do about the mortgage payments? I groaned, dropping my head onto the table. I'd been helping Mom with the house payments since Dad got sick. I can't just stop, she'll lose the house. The house Zane now owns? Yeah, but the same Zane who's never contributed a dime. I know. I sat up straight. But I can't let Mom end up homeless because my brother's an idiot. The bell above the diner door chimed. Jamal, my colleague from work, walked in, scanning the room until he spotted us. Hope you don't mind, I told Michael. I asked him to join. He might have some insights. Jamal slid into the booth beside Michael. Sorry about crashing your meeting. How are you holding up? Been better, but I need your business brain right now. I filled Jamal in on the situation. His expression grew more concerned with each detail. Look, he said finally, I shouldn't tell you this, but there's an opening for senior project manager at the firm. The position reports directly to me. My heart skipped. That's double my current salary. You'd earn every penny. It's high pressure, but, he shrugged, you're the best person for it. She'll take it, Michael interjected. I can speak for myself. I shot him a look, then turned to Jamal. I'll take it. Good, because I already put your name forward. Jamal checked his watch. Interviews Tuesday at 9 a.m. Don't be late. As Jamal left, Michael raised an eyebrow. Well, that's convenient timing. What do you mean? Tabitha, you've been carrying your family's financial burden for years. Maybe it's time to let them deal with their own mess. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Zane. Need Dad's office keys. Bring them home. I typed back, in the top drawer of his desk. Already checked. Not there. I smiled, feeling the weight of the keys in my jacket pocket. Must be lost then. Don't play games, Tabitha. I have work to do. So do I. Starting Tuesday. I switched off my phone and looked at Michael. Want to help me clean out my desk this weekend? I have a feeling I'm going to ace that interview. That's my girl, he grinned. But what about the Jensen account? I'm going to do exactly nothing. I straightened up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Zane wanted it all. He can have it all, including the problems. And your mom's mortgage? I sighed, stirring my coffee. I'll keep paying it, not for Zane, but because I refuse to let his incompetence hurt her. Besides, I smiled grimly. When everything falls apart, she'll need somewhere to live. Michael raised his coffee cup. To karma. To karma. I clinked my cup against his, and to finally letting go. As we left the diner, I felt my phone vibrate again. Probably Zane, still looking for those keys. Let him look. I had a future to plan, and for once, it didn't involve cleaning up anyone else's mess but my own. Congratulations on the promotion, Jamal said, dropping a stack of files on my new desk. Now for your first crisis. I'd barely finished arranging my family photo, the only one where Dad looked proud of me, taken at my college graduation, when reality came crashing in. The Jensen account, I asked, already knowing the answer. Your brother missed this morning's meeting. Third time this month, they've tried to negotiate terms. Jamal leaned against my desk. Word is, they're threatening to take their remaining assets elsewhere. My hands trembled as I opened the first file. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. Dad's company had extended Jensen Industrial nearly $12 million in credit over the past 2 years. My phone lit up with Mom's message. Mortgage payment is due tomorrow. Zane says he'll handle it this month. Everything okay? Jamal asked. Fine. I pulled up my banking app. Just need to make a quick transfer. The same transfer you've made every month for the past year. I looked up sharply. How did you? I pay attention. He crossed his arms. You know, letting them fail isn't the same as causing them to fail. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Zane stood there, looking distinctly unput together in a wrinkled suit. Well, he sneered. Someone's moving up in the world. This is a private office, I said coldly. You need an appointment. Jamal straightened up. I'll give you 2 a minute. As soon as the door closed, Zane slumped into the chair across from me. I need access to Dad's private accounts. Why would I have that? Because you were his little secretary during the end. He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. There has to be more money somewhere. Emergency funds, offshore accounts, something. I kept my face neutral, even as satisfaction bloomed in my chest. Having trouble with the Jensen account. How do you know about? Never mind. Look, I just need to buy some time. Like you bought time with the mortgage payment. I pulled up my transfer confirmation. The one you just told Mom you'd handle. His face reddened. That's different. I'm dealing with bigger issues here. Clearly, I stood up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do. Dad would have helped me, he said quietly. Dad's not here. I opened my office door, and neither are his secret accounts. After he left, Jamal returned with 2 cups of coffee. Rough conversation. Nothing I can't handle. I accepted the coffee gratefully. But I need a favor. Can you get me the contact information for Jensen Industrial's CFO? Planning to save the family business after all. No, I smiled. Just making sure I have a front row seat when it burns. That evening, I met Michael at our usual spot in Joey's. You should have seen him, I said, recounting Zane's visit. Complete mess. Dad would have been mortified. Speaking of mortified, Michael slid a newspaper across the table. Page 6. The headline made my coffee turn sour. West Industries faces multiple lawsuits from creditors. It's starting, I whispered. You sure you want to watch this happen? I thought about the years of being overlooked, of Zane's smug superiority, of Mom's blind devotion to her precious son. Yes, I said firmly, I need to see this through. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Miss West, this is Thomas from Jensen Industrial. Heard you were asking about us. Can we meet? I showed Michael the message. Careful, he warned. Don't get pulled into their mess. I won't, I typed back. Coffee tomorrow, 8 a.m. The response was immediate. Perfect. There's something you should know about your father's last deal with us. Later that night, as I was leaving the office, I found Logan waiting by my car. You've been busy, he said, holding up a folder, accessing your father's private files, contacting Jensen Industrial. How did you? I've been your father's lawyer for 30 years. I notice things. He handed me the folder, like how he transferred a significant sum to a private account 3 days before he died, an account only you have access to. My hands shook as I opened the folder. Inside was a letter in Dad's handwriting. My dearest Tabitha, if you're reading this, you've already figured out what's coming. I'm trusting you to make the right choice when the time comes. Love, Dad. I looked up, but Logan was already walking away. The right choice about what? I called after him. He turned, his silhouette dark against the parking lot lights. I think you'll know when the time comes. Just remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping aside and letting nature take its course. I clutched the folder to my chest, my mind racing. Tomorrow's meeting with Thomas from Jensen just became a lot more interesting. Thomas, from Jensen. Industrial, looked nothing like I expected. Instead of a suit-clad executive, I found myself sitting across from a tired-looking man in his 50s, wearing a worn cardigan and nursing his third cup of coffee. "Your father was a good man," he said, stirring another sugar packet into his cup. "But that last deal, it wasn't like him." "What do you mean?" "He knew we were sinking. Everyone did. But he kept extending credit, kept promising things would turn around." Thomas leaned forward. "Then, 3 days before he died, he called me, said everything was arranged, that you would understand when the time came." My hand instinctively touched the folder in my bag. "Did he mention a private account?" "No, but he did say his son wouldn't be able to handle what was coming." Thomas smiled sadly. "Guess he was right about that." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Mom's call. I declined it, but another immediately followed. "Sorry," I told Thomas. "I should take this." "Tabitha," Mom's voice was shrill. "Where are you? There are people at the house." "What people?" "Men in suits. They're talking about repossession. Zane isn't answering his phone, and—" "I'll be right there." I hung up and looked at Thomas apologetically. He waved me off. "Go. But remember what your father said. When everything falls apart, don't try to catch the pieces." I broke several speed limits, getting to my childhood home. 2 black sedans were parked in the driveway, and Mom stood on the porch, wringing her hands. "They say we owe money," she said as I rushed up. "But that's impossible," Zane assured me. "Mrs. West," a man in a dark suit, emerged from the house. "We've completed our initial inventory. Given the circumstances, you have 48 hours to remove personal belongings." "Personal belongings?" Mom's voice rose. "This is my home." "Mom," I took her arm gently. "Let's go inside and talk." In the kitchen, Mom collapsed into a chair. "I don't understand. Zane said everything was fine." He said, "Zane's been lying." I pulled out my phone and showed her the newspaper article. "The company's failing. Has been for months. That's ridiculous. Your father would never—" "Dad knew." I took out the folder Logan had given me. "He saw this coming." The front door slammed. Zane stormed into the kitchen, his face red. "Who called the creditors? Was it you?" He jabbed a finger at me. "No, but I'm not surprised they're here." I stood my ground. "What did you think would happen when you ignored their calls?" "I was handling it. Like you handled the mortgage." I pulled up my banking app. "The one I've been paying for the past year while you pretended everything was fine." Mom's head snapped up. "What? Oh, you didn't know." I turned to her. "Your perfect son hasn't contributed a dime. I've been keeping this roof over your head." "Is this true?" Mom asked Zane. He threw his hands up. "I was investing in the business. Someone had to keep Dad's legacy alive while she was off playing corporate climber." "Playing?" I laughed bitterly. "I just made senior project manager. Meanwhile, you've run Dad's company into the ground in less than 3 months." "Enough!" Mom slammed her hand on the table. "Zane, tell me exactly what's going on with the company." For the first time, I saw real fear in my brother's eyes. "Mom, there were complications." "We're bankrupt," I said flatly. "Aren't we, Zane?" His silence was answer enough. Mom's face crumpled. "But where will I live?" I took a deep breath. "I have a spare room, until we figure something out." "You?" Mom looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "But Zane needs to deal with the mess he's made." I gathered my keys. "Pack what you need, Mom. I'll be back in 2 hours to help you move." As I walked out, Zane grabbed my arm. "Wait, that private account Dad mentioned to Thomas. You have access to it, don't you?" I pulled away. "Goodbye, Zane." "Tabitha, please, just a loan to tide things over. I can fix this." I paused at the door, remembering Dad's letter. "Make the right choice when the time comes." "You know what, Zane? For once in your life, you're going to face the consequences of your actions. And I'm going to watch." I left him standing there, surrounded by the ruins of the empire he'd inherited. In my rearview mirror, I could see Mom on the porch, her face in her hands. It hurt. But sometimes healing only starts after everything falls apart. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "You okay?" "No," I typed back, "but I will be." Living with Mom was like sharing space with a ghost. She spent most days staring out my apartment window, clutching her phone, waiting for calls from Zane that never came. "He's just busy," she'd say, trying to sort everything out. I was arranging breakfast when Jamal called. "Turn on the news, Channel 7. The cereal box slipped from my hand when I saw the headline, "West Industries files for bankruptcy. CEO faces criminal investigation." "Mom," I called out, but she was already there, eyes glued to the screen. "Sources say the CEO, Zane West, may have misappropriated company funds," the reporter announced. "Multiple employees report missing paychecks and unauthorized account transfers." Mom's coffee mug shattered on the floor. "This can't be happening." My phone exploded with notifications. "Michael, you seeing this?" "Jamal, meeting in 20, big news." And finally, "Zane, need to talk, emergency." "I have to go to work," I told Mom, grabbing my keys. "But your brother will have to handle this himself." The office was buzzing when I arrived. Jamal waited by my door with a stack of papers. "Jensen Industrial wants to meet," he said as I hung up my coat. "They're offering to buy what's left of West Industries' assets." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they specifically asked for you to handle the negotiations." He dropped the papers on my desk. "Apparently, Thomas spoke highly of you." Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Zane stood there, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes wild. "You have to help me," he pleaded. "They're saying I committed fraud." "Did you?" His silence spoke volumes. "Get out of my office," I said quietly. "Tabitha, please. Dad's account, I know you have access. If I could just—" Still looking for handouts, I stood up. "Even now, you don't understand. They're talking about prison. Maybe you should have thought about that before stealing from your employees." Jamal cleared his throat. "Should I call security?" "No need." I walked to my brother. "You wanted it all, Zane. The company, the responsibility, Dad's legacy. Well, congratulations. It's all yours, including the consequences. Mom will never forgive you for this." He spat. "Mom needs to wake up and see you for who you really are." After he left, Jamal handed me a tissue. I hadn't realized I was crying. "The Jensen meeting is at 2, he said gently. "If you're up for it." I wiped my eyes. "I'll be there." During lunch, I met Michael at Joey's. The TV above the counter was still playing news about West Industries. "You okay?" he asked. "Better than I expected." I stirred my coffee. "It's almost a relief, watching it all finally fall apart." "And the private account your dad left you? Still untouched?" I smiled. "Dad knew this would happen. He was giving me a choice: save Zane or let him fall." "Looks like you chose." "No," I corrected. "Zane chose. Every time he lied, every time he stole, every time he refused to take responsibility. I'm just refusing to clean up his mess." My phone buzzed. "Mom, please talk to your brother. He's desperate." Speaking of messes, I showed Michael the text. "She's still defending him. Give her time. Reality's a harsh teacher, but an effective one." The Jensen meeting that afternoon was brief. Thomas laid out their offer, pennies on the dollar, for what remained of Dad's company. "Your father would understand," he said as I reviewed the papers. "Sometimes things need to fall apart completely before they can be rebuilt." I signed the documents, feeling a strange mix of sadness and liberation. That evening, I found Mom watching the news again. Zane's face filled the screen as he pushed through a crowd of reporters. "I could have helped him," she whispered. "No, Mom, you helped him too much already. We all did." She turned to me, tears in her eyes. "When did you get so strong?" "I've always been strong. You just never noticed because you were too busy watching Zane." My phone lit up with a text from Logan. "Your father would be proud. The account is yours to use as you see fit now." I thought about Dad's letter, about making the right choice. Maybe the right choice wasn't about saving or destroying. Maybe it was about letting things follow their natural course. "Mom," I said, "want to help me make dinner?" She nodded, finally turning off the TV. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, I realized some things had to break completely before they could start to heal. The knock came at midnight. I knew who it was before I opened the door. Zane stood in my hallway, soaked from the rain, holding a duffel bag. Gone was the expensive suit, replaced by jeans and a worn sweater. Gone was the smug smile, replaced by desperate eyes. "They froze my accounts," he said quietly. "All of them." Behind me, Mom appeared in her robe. "Zane, baby, what happened?" "Not now, Mom." I blocked her path to him. "Why are you here, Zane?" "I need a place to stay, just for a few days, until..." "Until what?" "Until the fraud charges disappear. Until Dad's company magically rebuilds itself." Mom tried to push past me. "Tabitha, he's your brother." "Yes, and he's also under investigation for stealing from his employees." I turned to her. "Remember Carl, Dad's old maintenance guy? Zane stole his pension." Zane's face reddened. "I was going to pay it back." "With what money?" I stepped into the hallway, pulling my door shut behind me. "The money you gambled away, or the money you spent on that yacht?" "I made mistakes, okay?" His voice cracked. "Is that what you want to hear?" I screwed up. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't pay back the people you stole from." He slumped against the wall. "What do you want from me, Tabitha?" "I want you to grow up. I want you to face consequences for once in your life. But mostly," I took a deep breath, "I want you to leave." "Where am I supposed to go?" "The same place Dad's employees went when they couldn't pay their rent because of you." My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "News vans outside your building. Heads up." "They followed me," Zane admitted. "The reporters." I didn't know where else to go. I heard the elevator ding. Voices and footsteps approached. "Mr. West, can you comment on the allegations? Is it true you embezzled millions? Where have you been hiding?" I grabbed Zane's arm and pulled him inside my apartment, slamming the door on the shouted questions. "Thank you," he breathed. "Don't. You're not staying." I pulled out my phone and dialed. "Jamal? Remember that favor you owe me? I need it now." 20 minutes later, Jamal's car pulled up behind my building. The reporters were still camped out front. "He'll take you to a motel," I told Zane. "One night. That's all you get." Mom grabbed my arm. "You can't send him away. Watch me." I handed Zane some cash. "After tonight, you're on your own." "The private account." He tried one last time. "Dad left it to you for a reason." "Yes, he did. To see what I do with it." I opened the back door. "And what I'm doing is letting you face reality." As Zane walked toward Jamal's car, Mom called out, "Wait." We both turned. "Did you really steal Carl's pension?" For the first time, Zane couldn't meet her eyes. "Mom, yes or no?" "Yes." The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's face crumpled, but not in the way it usually did when Zane was in trouble. This was different. This was realization. "Go," she whispered. After Zane left, Mom sat at my kitchen table, staring at her hands. "I enabled him, didn't I?" "We all did, Dad included." "But you didn't." She looked up at me. "You saw him clearly, all along." My phone buzzed again. "Logan, police want to question Zane tomorrow. Thought you should know." "What happens now?" Mom asked. "Now," I sat across from her. "Now we let justice run its course." "Will he go to prison?" "Probably." She nodded slowly. Maybe that's what he needs." "Mom, I've spent so many years making excuses for him, defending him, but stealing from Carl?" She shook her head. "Your father trusted those people. They were like family." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You know what Dad told me in his letter? He said to make the right choice when the time came. I think this is what he meant. Letting Zane face consequences. Letting the truth come out, all of it." My phone lit up with a news alert. former West Industries CEO, to face criminal charges. Employees speak out. Mom squeezed my hand. I'm sorry I never saw how strong you were. I'm sorry it took all this for you to see it. Outside, the reporters were still waiting, hoping for a glimpse of Zane. But he was gone, finally facing the reality he'd spent so long avoiding. And for the first time, neither Mom nor I was trying to shield him from it. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived. 3 months had passed since Zane's midnight visit, and today was his sentencing hearing. Miss West, they thrust microphones at me. Will you be testifying against your brother? Any comment on the plea deal? What about the missing pension funds? I pushed through them, spotting Michael waiting by the entrance. Ready for this? He asked. No, but it needs to be done. Inside, Mom sat in the front row, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She'd aged years in the past few months. He wants to see you, she said, as I sat beside her. Before the hearing. No. Tabitha, please. He's different now. He understands. Mrs. West, a bailiff approached. Your son is asking for you. Mom looked at me pleadingly. I nodded. Go. He needs at least one of us to believe in him still. While she was gone, Logan slid into the seat next to me. The account, he said quietly. Have you decided what to do with it? Actually, yes. I handed him a folder. I want to set up a trust for the employees who lost their pensions. He smiled. Your father would approve. I know. The courtroom doors opened. Zane entered in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of him. Mom followed, wiping her eyes. All rise. The judge entered, and the proceedings began. I barely heard the formal charges being read. My focus was on Zane, who kept turning to look at me. Finally, the judge spoke directly to him. Mr. West, before I pass sentence, would you like to address the court? Zane stood. Yes, Your Honor. He turned to face the gallery. I've prepared a statement. My stomach clenched. Here it came. More excuses, more manipulation. I'm guilty, he began. Not just of the charges, but of betraying every person in this room. My father built his company on trust and respect. I destroyed it with greed and lies. The room went silent. My sister, his voice cracked, tried to warn me. She saw what I was becoming, but I was too arrogant to listen. And now people like Carl, who worked for my father for 30 years, have lost everything because of me. I felt Mom's hand grip mine. I don't deserve forgiveness, Zane continued. I deserve whatever sentence you give me. But I want everyone to know, especially my sister, that I finally understand what Dad was trying to teach us. Success isn't about power or money. It's about integrity. The judge nodded. Thank you, Mr. West. Please be seated. What followed was a blur of legal terms, but the final sentence cut through clearly. 5 years in federal prison, with possibility of parole after 3. Additionally, you are ordered to make full restitution to all affected employees. Mom started crying. I sat perfectly still. As they led Zane away, he caught my eye one last time. No pleading, no manipulation, just acceptance. Outside, the reporters swarmed again, but Jamal appeared out of nowhere, creating a path through them. Your car's ready, he said. Unless you want to make a statement. Actually, I do. I turned to face the cameras. West Industries was built on trust. While that trust was broken, we're taking steps to make it right. Starting today, we're establishing a trust fund for all employees who lost their pensions. It won't erase what happened, but it's a start. Later, at Joey's, Michael raised his coffee cup. To justice. To consequences, I corrected. And to finally being free of them. Mom looked up from her untouched pie. What happens now? Now, I pulled out Dad's letter, worn from countless readings. Now we rebuild, not the company, that's gone, but ourselves. And Zane has 3 years to figure out who he is without anyone protecting him. My phone buzzed, a text from Carl. Saw the news about the trust fund. Thank you. You know, Mom said slowly. Your father used to say you had his business sense. I never understood what he meant until now. Better late than never, I smiled. As we left the diner, I spotted Logan waiting by my car. One last thing, he said, handing me an envelope. Your father left instructions to give you this after everything was settled. Inside was a single photo, Dad and me at my first business competition in high school. On the back, he'd written, "To my daughter, who always knew the value of doing what's right, not what's easy. The company was Zane's inheritance, but my legacy, that was always yours." I looked up, but Logan was already walking away, disappearing into the evening crowd. Behind me, Mom and Michael waited patiently. "Ready to go?" Michael asked. "Yeah," I tucked the photo into my pocket. "I'm ready." The prison visiting room smelled like cheap coffee and disinfectant. I sat at the metal table, watching Zane approach in his orange jumpsuit. He looked thinner, his usual swagger replaced by a careful humility. "I didn't expect you to come," he said, sitting down. "Neither did I." I placed a manila envelope on the table. "But there's something you need to see." Inside were documents from the trust fund. Every former West Industries employee had received their full pension, plus interest. "How?" Zane's hands trembled as he read. "The company was bankrupt. Dad left me an account, remember? The one you kept asking about." Understanding dawned on his face. "And you used it to pay back everyone I hurt." "Not everyone. Some things can't be repaid." He nodded, pushing the envelope back to me. "You did the right thing, like always, not always. I watched you destroy yourself and did nothing to stop it. Because I needed to fall." He managed a small smile. "Mom told me you're running your own consulting firm now. Someone has to rebuild our family's reputation." A guard approached. "Time's up." Zane stood. "Tabitha, thank you, not for coming today, but for letting me face this." I left the prison and found Mom waiting in the car. "How is he?" she asked. "Different. Better, maybe." My phone rang. Jamal's name flashing on the screen. "Turn on the business news," he said when I answered. Mom and I watched on my phone as the anchor reported, "In a surprising turn of events, former West Industries employees have banded together to start a new company, with Tabitha West as lead consultant. The company, Phoenix Consulting, has already secured several major contracts. They're talking about us," Mom whispered. "That's not all," Jamal continued. "Jensen Industrial wants to partner with Phoenix. Thomas specifically asked for you to lead the negotiations." I ended the call and looked at Mom. "Ready to go home?" "Actually," she straightened up, "I've been thinking about getting my own place." "What?" "You were right. I need to stop depending on my children. I've found a small apartment, and I'm going back to teaching." Pride swelled in my chest. Dad would love that. At Joey's that evening, Michael raised his coffee cup. "To Phoenix rising from the ashes. To new beginnings," Mom corrected, joining the toast. "To consequences and growth," I added. The bell above the door chimed. Carl walked in, followed by several other former West Industries employees. "Hope we're not interrupting," he said, pulling up a chair, "but we wanted to show you something." They spread blueprints across the table, plans for Phoenix's first major project. "We're not just rebuilding a company," Carl explained. "We're building a family, the right way this time." Rita, the waitress who'd been serving us for years, brought over a fresh pot of coffee. "On the house, boss." She winked at me. "Boss?" Michael raised an eyebrow. "I bought the diner," I admitted. "Couldn't let our meeting spot get sold to some chain restaurant." Mom touched my hand. "Your father would be so proud." "I know." I pulled out the worn photo from my pocket. Dad and me at that high school competition. He always was, I just couldn't see it then. My phone buzzed with a text from Logan. "Your father's last request is complete. The trust fund paperwork is finalized. Well done." Looking around the diner, at Mom finally standing on her own, at Carl and his team planning our future, at Michael who'd stood by me through everything, I realized Dad's legacy wasn't just about money or business. It was about choices, about facing consequences, about rebuilding what was broken. You know what? I stood up. Coffee's on the house for everyone tonight. Careful, Michael laughed. That's no way to run a business. No, I smiled. But it's a perfect way to build a family. As the diner filled with laughter and conversation, I thought about Zane in his prison cell, Mom in her new apartment, and the phoenix rising from the ashes of West Industries. We'd all lost something, but maybe we'd found something more valuable: truth, strength, and the courage to begin again. The bell chimed again as more familiar faces walked in. Former employees, new clients, old friends, each one carrying a piece of our shared story, each one part of this unexpected rebirth. More coffee? Rita asked. Yes, I said, watching my new family grow around me. I think we're going to need it.
The last person I expected to see standing next to my mother at my father's funeral was my ex-husband. Yet there he was, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist, as if he belonged there. I'm Camilla, and this is how my mother announced her marriage to Dexter, the man who nearly destroyed my life, at my father's funeral. The funeral home buzzed with whispers as mourners filed past my father's casket. I stood greeting them mechanically, my black dress feeling too tight, too restrictive. Trinity, my best friend, hadn't left my side since morning, her steady presence keeping me from completely falling apart. Your father was a great man, another faceless guest murmured, squeezing my hand. I nodded, the words washing over me like waves I couldn't quite feel anymore. Camilla! My mother's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. A word, please. I turned to face her, noting how perfectly coiffed her hair was, how precisely applied her makeup remained, despite the tears she'd shed earlier. Dexter stood slightly behind her, and my stomach lurched at the sight of his familiar smirk. What is he doing here? I hissed, keeping my voice low to avoid causing a scene. That's what I need to discuss with you. My mother's perfectly manicured hand reached for Dexter's. Your father knew about this, and he gave us his blessing before he passed. I felt Trinity's hand tighten on my arm. Knew about what exactly? My voice sounded distant, even to my own ears. Dexter and I were married last month, my mother announced, her chin lifting slightly. We wanted to wait until after the funeral to tell everyone, but I thought you should know first. The room spun. I grabbed the nearest chair for support, my knuckles white against the dark wood. You married my ex-husband, the man who... The past is the past, darling, my mother cut me off smoothly. Your father understood that people can change. Did he understand that Dexter embezzled money from his company? I shot back, my voice rising despite my best efforts to contain it. Or did you conveniently forget to mention that part? Dexter stepped forward, his face a mask of concern that made my skin crawl. Camilla, I know this is a shock, but don't. I held up my hand. Don't you dare speak to me. My brother Leonardo appeared at my side, his face twisted with confusion. What's going on? Ask our mother, I spat. She's full of surprises today. The funeral director approached, his face pinched with worry. Is everything all right here? Everything's fine, my mother assured him, but her eyes were cold when they met mine. My daughter is just overwhelmed with grief. Trinity pulled me away before I could respond, leading me to a quiet corner of the room. Breathe, Cam. Just breathe. She knew, I whispered, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. She knew what he did to me, to the company, and she married him anyway. We'll figure this out, Trinity promised, her hand rubbing circles on my back. But right now, we need to get through this funeral. Your father deserves that much. I nodded, straightening my spine. She was right. This was supposed to be about my father, about honoring his memory. Instead, my mother had turned it into her own twisted announcement party. As I walked back to my position near the casket, I caught sight of Dexter whispering something in my mother's ear, his hand resting possessively on her lower back, the same way he used to touch me before I discovered the truth about his schemes. Leonardo approached me again, his face serious. Tell me what's really going on, Cam. Not here, I murmured, watching as another group of mourners approached. But trust me, Leo, this is worse than you can imagine. The rest of the funeral passed in a blur of handshakes and hollow condolences. I delivered my prepared eulogy on autopilot, speaking about my father's dedication to his business, his family, his legacy. All the while, my mother sat in the front row, Dexter by her side, playing the part of the grieving widow perfectly. As the last of the mourners filed out, I felt something shift inside me. The numbness that had carried me through the day began to crack, revealing a white-hot anger underneath. My father might be gone, but I was still here, and I wouldn't let them destroy everything he'd built. Trinity squeezed my hand. "What are you thinking?" I watched my mother and Dexter walk to their car, their heads close together in conversation. "I'm thinking it's time for some truths to come out. All of them." "Whatever you need," Trinity said firmly. "I'm with you." I nodded, my jaw set. They thought they had won, that they could use my father's death to legitimize their betrayal. But they had no idea what was coming. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than ready to assist. 2 days after the funeral, I found myself standing in my father's office, surrounded by the remnants of his life. The leather chair still held the impression of his body, and his reading glasses lay folded on the desk exactly where he'd left them. "I can't believe she's not even here to help," Leonardo said, opening another file cabinet. "Too busy with her honeymoon, I guess." I snorted, rifling through a stack of papers. "Did you expect anything else from her?" "I still can't wrap my head around it," he admitted. "Dexter? Really? After everything he did to you?" "Everything he did to the company," I corrected, though the personal betrayal still stung. "Which is exactly why we need to find those financial records." Trinity walked in with 3 cups of coffee, setting them on the desk. "Remember that time Dexter almost had a heart attack when you accessed his laptop?" The memory hit me like a bolt of lightning. "That's it, his old laptop. Dad kept everything." I moved to the storage closet, pushing aside boxes until I found what I was looking for. The laptop was outdated now, but my father had insisted on keeping it after Dexter's hasty departure 3 years ago. "Will it even turn on?" Leonardo asked, peering over my shoulder. "One way to find out." I plugged it in and pressed the power button. The screen flickered to life. "Of course, Dad would use his birthday as the password," I muttered, typing in the numbers. The desktop appeared, filled with folders. Trinity leaned in. "Look at that one. DT Project Files." My hands shook as I clicked on it. Dozens of documents appeared, including a series of emails between Dexter and an offshore account manager. "Holy shit," Leonardo whispered, reading over my shoulder. He was siphoning money from the company's innovation fund, the same fund that was supposed to develop my automated trading algorithm, I said, my voice tight. The one Dad said wasn't profitable enough to pursue. Trinity touched my arm. "Cam, look at this email thread." The messages revealed something even worse. My mother had known about the embezzlement for months before I discovered it. She'd helped cover it up, all while watching me struggle to prove my worth to my father. "I need some air," I announced, pushing back from the desk, but before I could stand, the office door opened. "What are you doing in here?" My mother stood in the doorway, Dexter right behind her. "Cleaning out Dad's office," I replied coolly. "Something you should be helping with instead of playing newlywed." Dexter's eyes locked onto the laptop. "Is that your old laptop?" "Yes." I turned the screen toward them. "Want to explain these emails?" My mother's face hardened. "Those files are company property. You have no right." "I have every right." I stood up, anger burning through my veins. "I'm on the board now, remember? Dad made sure of that before he died." "A decision he clearly made while not thinking clearly," my mother snapped. "Like giving his blessing to your marriage?" Leonardo interjected. "Did he even know, Mom?" "Really? A flicker of something. Guilt, fear, crossed her face before disappearing. "What's done is done. Dexter and I are married, and we both have the company's best interests at heart." "Like you had my best interests at heart when you helped him steal my innovation," I demanded. When you watched him take credit for my work. You were never ready for that kind of responsibility, she said dismissively. You're too emotional, too impulsive. That's rich coming from someone who married her daughter's ex-husband. Dexter stepped forward, his face a mask of concern. Camilla, I know you're hurting. Don't, I held up my hand. Don't pretend you care. These emails prove exactly who you are. If you pursue this, my mother warned, you'll destroy everything your father built. No, I corrected her. I'll protect everything he built from people like you. Trinity moved to stand beside me while Leonardo crossed his arms, positioning himself between us and them. Think carefully about your next move, Dexter said, his voice low. Some stones are better left unturned. Is that a threat? I asked, my voice steady despite my racing heart. It's advice, my mother replied. From someone who loves you. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet office. Love? You don't know the meaning of the word. They left shortly after, but their threats hung in the air like smoke. I sat back down at the laptop, my hands steady now as I began copying files. What are you going to do? Leonardo asked. I looked at the email thread, at the evidence of their betrayal laid bare in black and white. I'm going to finish what Dad couldn't. I'm going to clean house. Trinity squeezed my shoulder. Whatever you need, we're here. I nodded, already formulating a plan. They thought they could intimidate me into silence, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. I was my father's daughter, and I'd learned from the best how to fight dirty when necessary. The company's IT department wasn't hard to access with my board member credentials. At 7 a.m., before most employees arrived, I sat with Marcus, our head of cybersecurity, reviewing years of archived data. These access logs are interesting, Marcus said, pointing to his screen. Someone used your login credentials to access the Innovation Fund database multiple times in 2020, usually between 2 and 4 a.m. That wasn't me. I leaned closer. I was in Singapore during those dates, developing the trading algorithm prototype. Marcus nodded. And look at this IP address. It traces back to Dexter's home network. Trinity, who'd been taking notes, looked up. Can you prove he stole your credentials? Better than that, Marcus typed rapidly. I can prove he used your prototype code to develop what he claimed was his own trading system. The timestamps match perfectly. My phone buzzed. A text from Leonardo. Mum's heading to the office. Heads up. Print everything, I told Marcus, and backup copies to my secure drive. We barely had time to collect the documents before my mother's heels clicked down the hallway. She burst into the IT department, her face flushed with anger. What do you think you're doing? She demanded. I held up my board member ID. My job. Investigating potential security breaches. You're accessing restricted files without authorization. Actually, Marcus interjected, as a board member, Ms. Camilla has full clearance for these files. My mother's eyes narrowed. Marcus, give us the room. Once we were alone, she dropped her polished facade. Stop this witch hunt immediately. Or what? I challenged. You'll marry another one of my exes. You ungrateful child, she hissed. Everything I've done has been to protect this company. By protecting a thief? By helping him steal my work? Your work? She laughed coldly. You mean your father's investment? His resources? His reputation that made it all possible? I spent 2 years developing that algorithm, I shot back. While you and Dexter were busy planning how to steal it, we did what was necessary, she said. The board would never have accepted the innovation from you. You were too young, too inexperienced. So you let Dexter take credit instead? Your daughter's husband? Ex-husband, she corrected. And yes, because he knew how to play the game, unlike you always fighting the system instead of working within it. Trinity stepped forward. The system you're talking about is corrupt. Stay out of this, my mother snapped. This is family business. She is family, I said firmly. More than you've been lately. My mother's face hardened. If you continue this investigation, you'll regret it. The board won't take kindly to these accusations. The board deserves to know the truth. The truth? She moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. The truth is your father knew about everything. He approved it all. The words hit me like a physical blow. You're lying. Am I? She pulled out her phone, showing me an email. He signed off on transferring your project to Dexter. He knew you weren't ready. I stared at the email, my father's signature clear at the bottom. Why? Because he understood what was best for the company, for the family. She touched my arm. Like you need to understand now. I jerked away from her touch. Don't. Think about it, Camilla. If this comes out, it won't just hurt Dexter and me. It'll destroy your father's legacy. Is that what you want? Before I could respond, Leonardo appeared in the doorway. Everything okay here? Perfect, my mother said, smoothing her skirt. Your sister and I were just discussing family loyalty. She left, her perfume lingering in the air like a toxic cloud. I slumped against the desk, the weight of her revelation crushing me. What did she say? Trinity asked softly. My father knew, I whispered. He helped them steal my work. Leonardo shook his head. There has to be more to it. Dad wouldn't what? Betray me? I laughed bitterly. Apparently that's our family specialty. Marcus cleared his throat from the doorway. Ms. Camilla, there's something else you should see. He pulled up another set of files on his screen. These were encrypted, but I managed to access them. They're from your father's private server. As I read through the documents, my hands began to shake. There was more to the story, much more. My father had been playing a longer game than any of us realized. Oh my God, Trinity breathed, reading over my shoulder. I straightened up, new determination flooding through me. Marcus, I need copies of everything. And I mean everything. What are you thinking? Leonardo asked. I looked at the documents, at the truth hidden within them. I'm thinking it's time to play the game their way. Mom wants to talk about family loyalty? Let's see how she handles family justice. The encrypted files from my father's server painted a different picture than my mother's version of events. I spread them across my dining room table while Trinity and Leonardo helped piece together the timeline. Look at this, Leonardo pointed to a dated memo. Dad started documenting Dexter's suspicious activities 2 years ago. Trinity picked up another document, and these notes about your mother's involvement, he knew she was helping Dexter. But why let it happen? I asked, shuffling through more papers. Why not stop them? A knock at the door made us all jump. Leonardo checked the security camera feed on his phone. It's Dexter. Perfect timing, I muttered, gathering the documents. Let him in. Dexter strode in like he owned the place, his expensive suit and practiced smile a reminder of everything I'd once fallen for. Camilla, he said smoothly, we need to talk. About how you stole my algorithm? Or about how you married my mother? His smile didn't waver. About how you're making a mistake that could hurt everyone involved. Everyone involved in the theft, you mean? He sat down uninvited. Your father understood business. Sometimes the ends justify the means. Is that what you told yourself when you were sleeping with my mother while we were still married? His facade cracked slightly. How did you... Dad kept records, Leonardo cut in, tossing a dated photo on the table. It showed Dexter and my mother at a hotel, months before our divorce. Your father was a practical man, Dexter recovered quickly. He knew the company needed strong leadership. And you think that's you? I laughed. A thief and a fraud? I think, he leaned forward, that you're out of your depth. The board trusts me. They respect me. They respect what they think you created, Trinity corrected. What about when they learn the truth? Dexter's eyes narrowed. You have no proof. I pulled out my laptop, turning it to face him. Actually, we do. Dad didn't just document your theft. He documented everything. The colour drained from his face as he watched the video playing on screen. Footage from my father's private office showing Dexter and my mother discussing their plan to steal my work. He was testing us, I realised aloud. All of us. Waiting to see who would prove worthy of his legacy. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Dexter warned, standing up. Your mother. My mother chose her side, I cut him off. Now I'm choosing mine. He moved toward me, but Leonardo stepped between us. I think it's time for you to leave. Think about what you're doing, Camilla, Dexter said from the doorway. Some things can't be undone. After he left, Trinity touched my arm. Are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said, pulling out more documents. Look at this. The paper was dated just weeks before my father's death. A revised company charter giving the board power to remove any executive proven to have engaged in corporate espionage or theft of intellectual property. Dad knew he was dying, Leonardo said softly. He was setting up safeguards. Not just safeguards, I corrected. Insurance. He made sure the truth would come out one way or another. Trinity studied the charter. The board meeting is next week. Are you ready for this? Ready to expose my mother and ex-husband's betrayal in front of the entire board? I picked up my father's final letter, his words of encouragement giving me strength. I've been ready for 3 years. Leonardo's phone buzzed. Mum's calling. Don't answer, I said. Let her wonder, let her worry. What if she tries to destroy the evidence? Trinity asked. She can't, I smiled. Everything's already been sent to the board members' secure emails, set to unlock the morning of the meeting. Dad's final failsafe. He really did think of everything, Leonardo marveled. Almost everything, I said, looking at the photo of Dexter and my mother. He didn't expect his wife to betray him like this. Or maybe he did, Trinity suggested. Maybe that's why he left you the means to expose them. I gathered the documents, my mind already racing ahead to the board meeting. They thought they were so clever playing their games in the shadows, but Dad taught me something they forgot. What's that? Leonardo asked. The truth always comes to light, I said, holding up the damning evidence. And karma? Sometimes it needs a helping hand. We spent the rest of the evening preparing for the board meeting, knowing that in 1 week everything would change. My mother and Dexter thought they'd won, thought they'd secured their position through betrayal and deceit. They were about to learn that my father's legacy wasn't just about business success, it was about justice. And I was my father's daughter, through and through. The day before the board meeting, my mother launched her counterattack. I was reviewing my presentation when Margaret, our head of HR, appeared at my office door. We need to talk, she said, closing the door behind her. Your mother just called an emergency executive committee meeting. I checked my watch. Without notifying all board members? She's trying to push through a motion to suspend your voting rights, Margaret explained, citing emotional instability following your father's death. My phone buzzed. Leonardo was calling. Tell me you've heard, he said when I answered. I'm hearing it now, I replied, putting him on speaker. Where are you? Outside the executive boardroom. Dexter's here with a team of lawyers. Trinity burst into my office waving her tablet. The encrypted emails just went out early. Someone tried to hack the system. That would be Dexter, I said, grabbing my laptop. Margaret, how long until the meeting starts? 20 minutes. They're gathering now? I pulled up the security feed of the boardroom. Sure enough, my mother sat at the head of the table, Dexter by her side, surrounded by men in expensive suits. They're trying to stop tomorrow's meeting before it happens, I realized. Trinity, call Marcus. Make sure the backup servers are secure. Already done, she replied. But Camilla, there's something else. The hack triggered a failsafe in your father's system. What kind of failsafe? She turned her tablet toward me. On the screen, dozens of additional documents were unlocking themselves, flooding the board members' inboxes with evidence of not just the algorithm theft, but years of financial manipulation. Dad really did think of everything, Leonardo said through the speaker. I grabbed my files. Margaret, can you get me into that meeting? She smiled. As head of HR, I'm required to be present for any vote regarding board member status, and I'm allowed to bring counsel. 10 minutes later, I walked into the boardroom with Margaret and Trinity flanking me. The conversations stopped dead. This is a closed meeting, my mother said sharply. Actually, Margaret stepped forward. Company bylaws require HR presence for any vote regarding board member status. Article 7, Section 3. And as the board member in question, I added, I have the right to defend myself. Dexter leaned forward. This isn't necessary, Camilla. We're only trying to help. Help yourselves, you mean? I connected my laptop to the room's display system. Like you helped yourself to my algorithm? That's enough, my mother stood. You're proving our point about your emotional state. Am I? I clicked a button and the screen filled with evidence. Because these documents tell a different story. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. What exactly are we looking at? Proof of intellectual property theft, I said, along with evidence of a long-term conspiracy to defraud the company. These documents weren't meant to be released yet, Dexter said quickly. They're part of my father's fail-safe system, I corrected, triggered by your attempted hack of the company's servers an hour ago. The room erupted in murmurs as board members checked their phones, finding their inboxes full of damning evidence. This is ridiculous, my mother declared. These documents could be fabricated. Like your marriage license? I projected it onto the screen. Dated 3 months before Dad's death, not after like you claimed. The colour drained from her face. How did you... Dad kept records of everything, I said, including your hotel meetings with Dexter while he was still my husband. One of the board members stood up. I moved to postpone this vote pending review of these new documents. Seconded, another called out. My mother's carefully constructed facade began to crack. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I do. I played the video of her and Dexter planning the theft. I'm finishing what Dad started. Your father, Dexter began. My father knew everything. I cut him off. He documented everything, and he made sure the truth would come out. The lawyers huddled together, whispering urgently. Board members were already leaving the room, phones pressed to their ears. Tomorrow's board meeting will proceed as scheduled, Margaret announced. All voting rights remain intact. My mother grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You'll regret this. I pulled free of her grip. No, Mom, you'll regret underestimating me, just like you underestimated Dad. Outside the boardroom, Trinity hugged me tight. That was amazing. It's not over yet, I reminded her. Tomorrow's the real battle. Leonardo joined us, grinning. Did you see their faces when that video played? I checked my phone. More documents were still unlocking, revealing deeper layers of deception. Dad didn't just leave us a way to expose them, I realized. He left us a way to take back everything they stole. Ready for tomorrow? Trinity asked. I watched my mother and Dexter through the boardroom windows, their perfect world crumbling around them. More than ready? It's time for justice. The morning of the board meeting, I found a manila envelope on my doorstep. Inside was a single photograph, my father and me at my college graduation, both of us beaming at the camera. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, "Don't do this to his memory." Another attempt at manipulation, Trinity said, examining the photo over coffee in my kitchen. She's getting desperate. She should be. Leonardo walked in, straightening his tie. The shareholders are already calling for an emergency meeting. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Dexter tried to access the servers again last night. Everything's secure. They're running out of options, I said, gathering my presentation materials, which makes them dangerous. We arrived at the company headquarters an hour early. The lobby was already buzzing with activity, board members and executives arriving in groups, whispering among themselves. Camilla. Dexter appeared beside me as I waited for the elevator. We need to talk, privately. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of everyone at the meeting. Please. His voice cracked slightly. 5 minutes. I nodded to Trinity and Leonardo to go ahead. 5 minutes. Dexter led me to a quiet corner of the lobby. Your mother is devastated. Devastated she got caught, you mean? She loves you, he insisted. Everything she did was to protect the company, your father's legacy. By stealing my work? By marrying my ex-husband? He ran a hand through his hair. It's complicated. Actually, it's very simple. I pulled out my tablet. You stole my algorithm. You and my mother conspired to push me out. And now you're both going to face the consequences. I can make this right, he said quickly. I'll give you credit for the algorithm, full credit. We can say it was a collaborative project. I laughed. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about credit anymore. Then what do you want? Money? A bigger position in the company? I want justice, I said simply. For me, for my father, for every person you've stepped on to get where you are. His face hardened. Your mother was right. You are too emotional for business. No, I corrected him. I'm just not willing to sacrifice my integrity for it. The elevator dinged, and board members poured out. Among them was my mother, looking perfectly composed, despite everything. Last chance, Dexter warned. Think about what this will do to the family. I am thinking about family, I replied, just not the way you define it. The boardroom was packed when I entered. Trinity had set up my presentation and Leonardo sat ready with the additional documentation. Marcus stood by the tech console, ensuring no last-minute technical difficulties would interrupt us. My mother took her seat at the head of the table. Before we begin, I'd like to address the disturbing allegations that have been circulating. Actually, one of the senior board members interrupted. We'd like to hear from Camilla first. I stood, connecting my tablet to the display. What I'm about to show you isn't just about a stolen algorithm. It's about a pattern of deception that goes back years. This is absurd, my mother protested. We've discussed what you wanted us to hear, another board member cut in. Now we'll hear the full story. For the next hour, I laid out everything. The theft of my work, the financial manipulation, the carefully orchestrated deception. With each revelation, my mother's facade cracked further, while Dexter's smug expression turned to barely concealed panic. The algorithm in question, I pulled up the original code, was developed by me during my time in Singapore. Here's the proof of concept, dated and verified. This is circumstantial, Dexter argued. Anyone could have written this. I entered a command, and the screen filled with my father's private notes. Dad documented everything, including your late-night meetings to plan how to steal my work. My mother stood abruptly. This meeting is over. Actually, Leonardo spoke up, according to company bylaws, it's not. Not until we vote. Vote on what? She demanded. Your removal, I said quietly. Both of you, for corporate espionage and breach of fiduciary duty. The room erupted in discussion. Through it all, my mother stared at me, her expression a mix of fury and something else. Fear. Before we vote, I continued, there's one more thing you should see. I played my father's final video message, recorded days before his death. As his voice filled the room, explaining how he'd discovered their betrayal and set up the fail-safes, I watched my mother sink back into her chair, finally understanding the full scope of what she'd lost. The truth was out. Now it was time for justice. My father's face filled the boardroom screen, his voice steady despite his illness. If you're watching this, it means my daughter has discovered what I've known for some time, that my wife and Dexter have betrayed not just her trust, but the trust of this entire company. The room was dead silent. Even the usual typing and whispers had ceased. I've watched them steal my daughter's work, he continued. I've documented their deception, their manipulation, and I've waited, testing their character and testing my daughter's strength. My mother's hands gripped the armrests of her chair, knuckles white. Camilla. My father's eyes seemed to look directly at me. I'm sorry I put you through this. But I needed to know you could fight for what's yours, that you could stand up against those who would take it from you. Tears threatened, but I blinked them back. Trinity squeezed my hand under the table. To the board. My father's tone grew firmer. You'll find complete documentation of everything I've discovered in the files accompanying this video. The choice of how to proceed is yours, but remember, this company was built on innovation and integrity, not theft and deception. The video ended. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Dexter stood up, straightening his jacket. This is clearly a manipulated video. The timestamps and metadata have been verified, Marcus interrupted, by 3 independent experts. "This is ridiculous," my mother snapped. "You can't possibly believe that you helped steal your daughter's intellectual property." One of the board members, Patricia, leaned forward. "Or that you married her ex-husband while conspiring to push her out of the company?" "Everything I did was for this company," my mother insisted. "No," I stood up. "Everything you did was for yourself and for him." I nodded toward Dexter, who was already edging toward the door. "Sit down, Dexter," Leonardo called out. "We're not finished." "I think we are," Dexter replied, reaching for the door handle. "If you leave this room," Patricia warned, "you'll be admitting guilt. All of it." He paused, hand on the door. "You have no proof of financial wrongdoing." I clicked to the next slide. "Actually, we do. Dad didn't just document the algorithm theft. He tracked every penny you embezzled through offshore accounts." The color drained from his face as bank statements and transfer records filled the screen. "The SEC has already been notified," Leonardo added. "They're very interested in speaking with both of you." My mother stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. "You ungrateful child. After everything I've sacrificed." "Sacrificed?" I cut her off. "Like my marriage, my career, my relationship with my father?" "Your father," she spat, "was weak. He couldn't see what needed to be done to keep this company strong." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Patricia cleared her throat. "I think we've heard enough. Shall we proceed with the vote?" "This is a witch hunt," Dexter protested, but his voice shook. "No," I corrected him. "This is karma." The vote was unanimous. Within minutes, security arrived to escort them from the building. As my mother passed me, she paused. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done," I replied. "I've taken back what's mine." After they left, Patricia turned to me. "The algorithm, can you implement it?" I nodded, pulling up the original code. "I can have it running within weeks. It's already been tested and proven in Singapore." Then I moved to appoint Camilla as head of innovation and technology, another board member proposed. "All in favour?" The ayes were unanimous. As the meeting concluded, Trinity hugged me tight. "Your father would be so proud." "He is proud," Leonardo said, holding up his phone. "Look what I found in his personal files." It was a photo I'd never seen before, Dad in his office, watching through the window as I presented my first project to the board. His face glowed with pride. "Ms. Camilla," Marcus appeared at my side. "The police are here. They'd like to speak with you about pressing charges." I looked at the empty chairs where my mother and Dexter had sat, their abandoned coffee cups still warm. "Tell them I'll be right there." "Are you okay?" Trinity asked softly. I touched the screen where my father's image had been, remembering his words about integrity and strength. "I'm better than okay. I'm free." As we left the boardroom, employees lined the hallway, many of them applauding. They'd watched Dexter take credit for others' work for years, seen my mother's manipulation up close. "Ready to build something new?" Leonardo asked as we walked. I smiled, thinking of all the innovations I'd put on hold, all the ideas I'd been afraid to share. More than ready. It's time to show them what real leadership looks like. The truth had finally come to light, and with it, a new chapter was beginning. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd ever been silenced by power and greed. The headlines splashed across every business journal. Tech prodigy reclaims stolen algorithm, and mother-son duo face federal charges in corporate espionage case. But I wasn't reading any of them. Instead, I sat in my father's old office, my office now, reviewing applications for our new innovation incubator program. Trinity burst through the door, waving her tablet. "They took the plea deal." I looked up from my desk. Both of them. "Dexter rolled on your mother first," she said, dropping into a chair. "Then she had no choice but to cooperate." Leonardo appeared in the doorway. "Just got off the phone with the lawyers. Dexter's facing 5 years, Mom's getting 3, plus they have to repay everything they stole." "How much?" I asked. $7 million, he grinned. "Plus interest." A knock at the door interrupted us. Patricia entered with a young woman I didn't recognize. "Camilla, this is Sarah. She's the programmer who tried to report Dexter's theft last year and was fired for it. Sarah stepped forward nervously. I saw what you did, standing up to them. It gave me courage to come forward with others. Others? I asked. 17 so far, Patricia said, all with similar stories of having their work stolen or being silenced. I stood up, walking to my father's old whiteboard where I'd mapped out my original algorithm. Sarah, what was your project? A sustainable energy tracking system, she said, eyes lighting up. It could revolutionize how companies monitor their carbon footprint. I erased the board. Show me. For the next hour, Sarah outlined her project while I took notes. Trinity and Leonardo chimed in with questions, and Patricia watched with approval. This is exactly what the innovation program needs, I said when Sarah finished. Real innovators, supported and credited for their work. Speaking of credit, Trinity handed me a letter. The patent office confirmed it. The algorithm is officially registered in your name. I traced my fingers over my name on the document, remembering all the nights I'd spent developing it, all the times I'd tried to prove its worth. There's something else, Leonardo said softly. We found this in Dad's personal safe. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter dated just days before his death. My dearest Camilla, I read aloud, by now you've discovered the truth and taken back what's yours. I'm sorry for the pain this caused you, but I needed to know you would fight for what's right, not just what's easy. My voice caught, but I continued. You were never the weak one. You were always the strongest of us all. Your mother and Dexter saw only power, but you saw possibility. That's why you'll succeed where they failed. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. The company is changing, I said, looking up from the letter. Starting today, we protect innovators, not exploit them. The board approved your full proposal, Patricia confirmed. The innovation incubator, the mentorship program, everything. And the first project? Trinity asked with a knowing smile. I turned to Sarah. How would you like to head up our sustainable energy division? Her eyes widened. Really? Really? I nodded. With full credit and patent rights for your work. As Sarah hugged me, tears flowing freely now, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother's number. You think you've won, but you'll never be me. I showed it to Leonardo. He shook his head. She still doesn't get it. No, I replied to the text. I'll be better. I blocked her number and turned back to the whiteboard. Sarah, let's hear more about this energy tracking system. I have some ideas for expansion. As we worked, I caught sight of my reflection in the office window, standing exactly where my father used to stand, leading with integrity just as he'd hoped I would. Trinity nudged me. You okay? I looked around the room, at Sarah sketching excitedly on the board, at Leonardo and Patricia discussing implementation plans, at the pile of applications from other innovators seeking a chance to be heard. You know what? I smiled. For the first time in years, I really am. The sun set over the city skyline, casting long shadows through the office windows. But unlike the shadows of deceit that had darkened these halls before, these shadows held promise of innovation, of integrity, of justice served and wrongs made right. My father had given me the tools to fight back, but the strength to use them? That had been mine all along, and now, finally, everyone knew it. Let's get to work, I said, picking up a marker. We've got a company to rebuild.
I stared at my reflection in the mirror, methodically applying concealer to hide the dark circles under my eyes. Tonight was the annual Armstrong Family Foundation Gala, and Mother's words from our earlier phone call still rang in my ears. Don't embarrass us tonight, okay? My name is Linda, and I've spent 34 years being the family disappointment. You'd think I'd be used to it by now. Your dress is ready, Ms. Armstrong. The hotel concierge called through the door. I'd booked a suite to prepare for the gala, knowing I couldn't handle getting ready at my parents' mansion while watching everyone fawn over my sister Jordan. Thank you, just leave it there. I waited until the footsteps faded before retrieving the garment bag. My phone buzzed. A text from Tatum. You sure about this? I typed back. No turning back now. The black dress I'd chosen was elegant, but understated, exactly what Mother hated. She'd already sent 3 passive-aggressive texts about how I should wear something more festive like Jordan's designer gown. Another buzz. This time from Emma, my cousin. I'm here if you need backup. I smiled, remembering how Emma had reached out 6 months ago after years of separation. We'd both been cast as the family black sheep, though for different reasons. Her crime was marrying for love instead of status. Mine was refusing to play my assigned role of invisible supporter. The suite's phone rang. Ms. Armstrong, your sister is asking to come up. My stomach clenched. Tell her I'm not ready yet. Linda! Jordan's voice carried through the phone. Don't be difficult. Mother sent me to help with your makeup. I'm 34, Jordan. I can do my own makeup. God, you're so sensitive. This is why Mother worries about you. Just let me in. I closed my eyes, remembering last year's gala. Jordan had announced her luxury skincare line, funded by our parents' small loan of $200,000. Meanwhile, when I'd asked for help starting my tech company years ago, Father had lectured me about fiscal responsibility. Fine, I said finally. Give me 5 minutes. I quickly pulled up my banking app and took screenshots, then sent them to Tatum with instructions. My hands shook slightly as I typed, upload these to the presentation after slide 15. The door burst open before I could finish. Jordan swept in wearing a rose gold sequined gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Oh, honey, she said, eyeing my simple black dress. That's so basic. Mother will be devastated. I like it. You always do this, she sighed, pulling out her makeup kit. Every event, you deliberately choose the most boring option. It's like you want to fade into the background. If she only knew. Not everyone needs to be the center of attention, Jordan. She rolled her eyes while applying bright pink lipstick. Speaking of attention, Mother wants you sitting at the main table tonight, next to that venture capitalist from Silicon Valley. Why? Because you're the only single one left, silly. He's divorced, but his family owns half of San Francisco or something. She paused, studying my face. You're not getting any younger, Linda, and it's not like you have much going on career-wise. I bit back a laugh. My little freelance work, as Mother called it, had quietly grown into a multi-million-dollar tech empire. But they'd never bothered to ask. I'll sit wherever I'm told, I said quietly. That's the spirit, Jordan beamed, missing my sarcasm entirely. Oh, and Mother wants you to say a few words during my announcement tonight. What announcement? Can't tell you yet, but it's huge. You'll be so excited to be part of it. She checked her phone. Car's here, ready to go. I looked at myself in the mirror one last time. The woman staring back wasn't the meek daughter they expected anymore. Tonight, everything would change. Ready, I said. As we rode to the venue, Jordan chatted about her skincare line's upcoming expansion. I nodded at appropriate intervals while checking my phone. Tatum had confirmed the slides were updated. Emma texted that she was already there, watching Mother direct the staff like a general commanding troops. You seem distracted, Jordan said suddenly. Just nervous about public speaking. She patted my hand condescendingly. Don't worry, we'll make it quick. Nobody expects much from you anyway. The car pulled up to the Grand Hotel entrance. Through the window, I could see photographers lined up, waiting to capture the Armstrong family's perfect facade. Showtime, Jordan sang, reaching for the door handle. Showtime indeed. They had no idea what was coming. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the flash of cameras. Mother had outdone herself this year, transforming the space into what she called a modern fairy tale setting. I watched from my assigned seat as she worked the crowd, her silver dress catching the light as she moved from group to group. Linda? She air-kissed my cheeks when she finally reached our table. You look comfortable. Her smile tightened. I see you went with the black dress after all. You look lovely, Mother. Catherine, darling. A woman in her 60s interrupted us. The decorations are divine, and Jordan looks absolutely radiant tonight. Doesn't she? Mother beamed. She's announcing something spectacular later. Linda, have you met Richard? He's in tech too. Actual tech, not just freelancing. Richard, the venture capitalist I'd been seated beside, extended his hand. Pleasure. What kind of work do you do? Before I could answer, Mother jumped in. Oh, Linda helps small businesses with their websites. Nothing too complicated. Richard here just closed a $50 million deal in Silicon Valley. I sipped my champagne, thinking about the $100 million acquisition offer sitting in my inbox. How fascinating, I murmured. Speaking of business, Mother lowered her voice. Linda, dear, we need you to join us on stage during Jordan's announcement. Just smile and nod. You can manage that, right? Emma caught my eye from across the room and raised an eyebrow. I gave her a subtle nod. The lights dimmed and Father took the stage. Welcome, everyone, to the 35th Annual Armstrong Family Foundation Gala. Applause filled the room. Tonight is extra special as we celebrate not just our charitable work, but also an exciting new chapter for our youngest daughter, Jordan. Jordan practically floated onto the stage in her sparkling gown. Thank you, Daddy. As you all know, my luxury skincare line has been my passion project for the past year. We've had some unexpected challenges. She paused dramatically. But tonight I'm thrilled to announce our expansion plans. Mother appeared at my elbow. That's your cue, dear. Remember, smile and nod. I allowed myself to be steered toward the stage, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Tatum's text buzzed in my clutch. Everything's ready. My beautiful sister Linda, Jordan gushed into the microphone, has always been my biggest supporter, and tonight she's proving it again. She turned to me, eyes gleaming. Linda has generously agreed to invest $800,000 to expand our skincare line. The room erupted in applause. I felt the blood drain from my face as Jordan continued. Such a blessing that she has no husband or children to support, so she can help her family instead. Mother squeezed my arm, warning. Smile, she hissed. I stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent, waiting for my prescribed response of grateful acceptance. That's quite an announcement, I said slowly, especially since this is the first I'm hearing of it. Jordan's smile faltered. Mother's fingers dug into my arm. Oh, don't be modest, Jordan tried to recover. We discussed this last week. Did we? Must have been right after you maxed out your third credit card and before you lost your last investor. I turned to the crowd. Actually, since we're all here, I have an announcement of my own. Linda? Father warned from behind me. I shrugged off Mother's grip and walked to the AV booth. Could you pull up the next slide, please? Linda, get back here right now. Mother's voice carried across the silent room. The screen behind me flickered. My bank balance appeared in bold numbers. $893.42. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jordan's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the stage. That's right, I said into the microphone. The daughter you never thought would amount to anything? She's been running a successful tech empire for the past 5 years. The little freelance work you dismissed? It's now worth 9 figures. Mother's perfect smile had completely vanished. Father was frantically whispering to the event coordinator. So no, Jordan, I won't be paying off your debt. Instead, I nodded to the AV technician again. The screen changed to show my foundation's logo. I'm announcing the creation of the Armstrong Barlow Foundation for Young Women Entrepreneurs. Emma stood up from her table, applauding. Others joined her, the sound growing. This foundation, I continued, my voice steady, will support young women who, like me, were told they weren't enough, who built something from nothing, who succeeded not because of their family's support, but despite its absence. I could see reporters scribbling frantically. Mother had collapsed into a chair while Father was making a beeline for the stage. Oh, and one more thing, I added, just as he reached the steps. I have some interesting documents about where the money from Jordan's previous failed ventures really went. Would anyone like to see those? The room erupted into chaos. I stepped away from the microphone, my heart pounding, but my head held high. The perfect family facade was finally cracking, and I was just getting started. The next few minutes were a blur of flashing cameras and shouted questions. Father had grabbed the microphone, attempting damage control with his practiced banker's smile. Ladies and gentlemen, please, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Perhaps we should take a brief intermission. Is it true about the misappropriated investor funds? A reporter called out. How long has the family been covering up Jordan's failed businesses? Another voice joined in. I stood quietly at the edge of the stage, watching my carefully constructed bomb detonate. Mother had recovered enough to paste on her social smile, though her hands shook as she gripped her champagne glass. Linda? Emma appeared at my elbow. Security's getting antsy. We should move somewhere quieter. Before I could respond, Jordan stormed over, mascara running down her cheeks. How dare you? How fucking dare you humiliate me like this? Humiliate you? I kept my voice low. Like you've humiliated me for years? Poor Linda, no husband, no real job, nothing to show for herself. That was different. I was trying to help you. By announcing I'd pay your debt without even asking me? Mother said you'd understand. You always understand. Jordan's voice cracked. You're my sister. You're supposed to support me. A man in an expensive suit pushed through the crowd. I recognized him immediately. Santiago, Jordan's ex-boyfriend and former investor. Support you? He laughed bitterly. Like you supported your investors? Tell them about the yacht, Jordan. Tell them where their seed money really went. Jordan's face went white. Santi, please. I have the receipts, he announced loudly, pulling out his phone. All of them. The wire transfers, the fake business reports, everything. Mother appeared between us like a ghost. This is a private family matter, she hissed. Linda, stop this nonsense immediately. Or what, Mother? You'll cut me off? Disown me? Go ahead. I gestured to the screen, still showing my bank balance. I don't need your money anymore. Money isn't everything, she snapped. What about loyalty? Family? Loyalty? Emma stepped forward. Like when you cut me off for marrying the wrong person, or when you told Linda her business ideas were embarrassing? Mother's eyes narrowed. I should have known you were behind this, always filling Linda's head with ridiculous notions of independence. The only notion in my head, I said clearly, is that I'm done being your backup plan, done watching you throw money at Jordan's failures while calling my success cute little projects. Tatum appeared with her laptop. Linda, you need to see this. The story's already hitting social media. People are digging up all of Jordan's old business records. Stop, Father thundered, finally reaching our group. Linda, name your price. Whatever you want. Just stop this circus right now. I looked at him sadly. That's always been your solution, hasn't it? Throw money at problems until they go away. I'm your father. Are you? Because fathers typically support their daughters, help them grow, not tear them down to keep another child on a pedestal. The crowd had grown silent, watching our family drama unfold like a live soap opera. Reporters were recording everything on their phones. You've made your point, Mother said through clenched teeth. Now help us fix this. Fix what? The truth? I turned to the crowd. Would anyone like to hear about the time they told me I was too plain to be the face of the family charity? Or how about when they used my college fund to bail out Jordan's first failed boutique? Linda, please, Jordan whispered. You're destroying everything. No, Jordan. You all did that yourselves. I'm just finally letting people see behind the curtain. Santiago stepped forward again. And I have proof of every financial transaction, every cover-up, every emergency loan that mysteriously vanished. Mother swayed slightly. Keith, she grabbed Father's arm, do something. But there was nothing he could do. The perfect family image they'd cultivated for decades was shattering in real time, and all the money in the world couldn't put it back together. Ms. Linda? A young woman approached hesitantly. I'm from the Business Journal. Would you tell us more about your new foundation? I smiled genuinely for the first time that evening. Of course, it's a project very close to my heart. Linda! Mother's voice was sharp. Don't you dare! The foundation, I continued, ignoring her, will focus on supporting young women from unsupportive families, because sometimes the biggest obstacle to success isn't lack of talent or determination. It's the people who should be lifting you up instead holding you down. As I walked away with the reporter, I heard Jordan burst into fresh tears and Mother calling for her anxiety medication. But for once, I didn't turn back to fix their problems. My time as the family Band-Aid was officially over. The Business Journal reporter Sarah leaned forward eagerly. So, this foundation, it's more than just financial support, isn't it? Much more, I replied, aware of the growing crowd of journalists around us. We're creating a mentorship network, business incubator programs, and Linda! Father's voice boomed across the room. He was striding toward us with 2 security guards. This interview is over. I stood my ground. Actually, it's not. Sarah, would you like to see the next slide? Before Father could intervene, the screen lit up with documents, bank statements, emails, and contracts spanning years. The room fell silent again. These? I gestured to the screen. Show exactly how my family handled money over the past decade. Notice the pattern? Every time Jordan failed, they diverted funds from our family foundation to cover it up. That's confidential information, Father spluttered. Not anymore. Santiago stepped forward, his phone still recording. As an investor who was defrauded, I made sure everything was properly documented and reported to the relevant authorities. Mother appeared, clutching her pearls. You're making a scene, Linda. Think about what this will do to our reputation. Your reputation? Emma's voice cut through the tension. You mean the reputation you built by crushing anyone who didn't fit your perfect image, by hiding Jordan's failures and Linda's successes? Jordan, who had been surprisingly quiet, suddenly lunged forward. You think you're so perfect? At least I tried to do something with my life. What did you do? Hide behind a computer screen? I laughed, actually laughed. What I did was build a company valued at over $90 million. While you were buying yachts with investor money, I was creating jobs. While you were getting bailouts, I was helping other women succeed. Lies! Jordan screamed. You're lying! Tatum stepped forward, tablet in hand. Actually, here's the latest acquisition offer from Silicon Valley. Would anyone like to see it? Reporters surged forward. Father tried to block them, but it was too late. And here, I continued, nodding to the AV tech, is where the foundation money really went. Notice these transfers? Each one coincides with one of Jordan's business emergencies. Mother swayed dangerously. Keith, stop her! You can't stop the truth, Mother. I turned to the crowd. The Armstrong Barlow Foundation will be different. Complete transparency, regular audits, real support for women who need it. I'm calling our lawyers, Father threatened. Go ahead. I have copies of everything. Santiago has copies. The SEC has copies. The mention of the SEC made Father's face go pale. Jordan started sobbing again. You've ruined everything, she wailed. All my investors will pull out now. Your investors already pulled out, Santiago corrected. That's why your parents were trying to force Linda to bail you out. Again. A young woman in the crowd raised her hand. Ms. Linda, how can we apply for foundation support? Don't you dare answer that, Mother hissed. I smiled directly at the young woman. Applications open next month. We're especially interested in tech startups and social enterprise initiatives, the kind of businesses my family called unrealistic dreams. This is your last chance, Father warned. Retract everything now or you're out of the family. The room held its breath. I could feel Emma's supportive presence behind me, Tatum's quiet strength beside me. Out of the family? I met his gaze steadily. I've been out of this family since I refused to play by your rules. The only difference is now everyone knows why. Security! Mother called. Remove her! Actually, the head of security stepped forward, looking uncomfortable. We work for the hotel, ma'am, and Ms. Linda has proper credentials for this event. Jordan made one last attempt. What about all the times I helped you? Covered for you? Covered for me? I shook my head. You mean like telling everyone I was between jobs when my company hit its first million, or suggesting I needed therapy because I wouldn't fund your spa venture? Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room. The Armstrong Barlow Foundation's first initiative will be converting my family's old summer house into a business incubator. Seems fitting, turning a symbol of privilege into a launching pad for real talent. Mother actually gasped. You can't! That property is mine now, I finished. I bought it last week. Amazing what you can do with actual earned money instead of family handouts. The reporters were scribbling frantically. Father had his phone out, presumably calling his lawyer. Jordan had collapsed into a chair, mascara completely ruined. But for the first time in my life, standing in that room full of witnesses to our family's implosion, I felt completely free. Now, I turned back to Sarah. Where were we? Ah, yes. Let me tell you about our mentorship program. After the media frenzy, Emma guided me to the gala's green room. My hands were shaking as I collapsed onto a plush velvet sofa. Here. She handed me a glass of water. You did it. You actually did it. I can't believe. My voice cracked. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me raw. The door burst open. Tatum rushed in, her face flushed with excitement. The story's everywhere. Twitter's exploding. 3 major business magazines want exclusive interviews. How bad is it out there? I asked. Your mother's having a medical episode in the lobby. Your father's threatening to sue everyone in sight. And Jordan. Tatum checked her phone. Jordan's trying to spin it on Instagram as a family misunderstanding. Emma snorted. A misunderstanding? They tried to extort $800,000 from you in public. A soft knock interrupted us. Sarah, the Business Journal reporter, poked her head in. Ms. Linda, do you have a moment? Actually, Emma started protectively. It's okay, I said. Come in, Sarah. She sat across from me, recorder ready. That was incredible out there. But what made you finally do it? Why tonight? Before I could answer, the door slammed open again. Jordan stormed in, her perfect makeup now a disaster. Turn off that recorder, she demanded. This is family business. Family business? I laughed tiredly. Like when you announced to hundreds of people that I'd pay your debt without asking me? You're my sister. You're supposed to help me. Like you helped me? I turned to Sarah. Want to know why tonight? Because 6 years ago, when I asked my family for a $10,000 loan to start my company, they told me I was being irresponsible. 2 weeks later, they gave Jordan $50,000 for a juice bar that lasted 3 months. That was different, Jordan protested. My ideas were solid. Your ideas were vanity projects, Emma cut in. Linda actually had a business plan. Nobody asked you, traitor. Jordan spun toward Emma. You're just bitter because your husband isn't good enough for our family. My husband built his own successful business, Emma replied calmly, without Daddy's money. Sarah was scribbling frantically. Jordan noticed and lunged for her notebook. Give me that! Touch her, and I'll add a salt to the story, Tatum warned, stepping between them. The door opened again. Mother stood there, looking oddly deflated without her usual perfect posture. Linda, we need to talk. Alone. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of them. Fine. Mother stepped in, closing the door. Name your price. Excuse me? To fix this, whatever you want. Money, property, positions on the foundation board. Just tell us how to make this go away. I stared at her in disbelief. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. Then what? Attention? You've certainly gotten plenty tonight. It's about truth, Mother. About finally showing everyone who you really are. Who we really are? Her voice rose. We're your family. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing but criticism and comparison. I stood up, anger flooding back. Every achievement was dismissed. Every success was minimized, while Jordan got endless chances, endless support, endless praise. Because Jordan needed it. You were always so capable. Capable? I laughed bitterly. I was invisible until you needed something from me. Sarah cleared her throat. Mrs. Catherine, would you like to comment on the allegations about misappropriated foundation funds? Mother's face hardened. Get out, all of you except Linda. Nobody moved. These are my witnesses, I said quietly. They stay. Witnesses? Jordan scoffed. For what? For when you try to spin this tomorrow, when you try to paint me as the ungrateful daughter who betrayed her family. You did betray us, Jordan shrieked. Look what you've done to our reputation. Your reputation was a lie, Emma said. Linda just exposed it. Mother sank into a chair, suddenly looking every bit of her 61 years. What do you want, Linda? Really? I want you to live with the truth, like I've had to live with your lies all these years. And the foundation? Her voice was barely a whisper. We'll help girls who remind me of myself. The ones told they're not enough, not pretty enough, not social enough. The ones whose families try to dim their light instead of helping it shine. Jordan made a disgusted sound. So sanctimonious. You think you're better than us? No, I replied. I think I'm finally free of you. Mother stood abruptly. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I nodded to Sarah. Would you like those documents now? As Mother dragged Jordan out, I could hear Father in the hallway, still shouting about lawyers. But his threats couldn't touch me anymore. The truth was finally out, and it was more liberating than any revenge could ever be. The morning after the gala, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I sat in my home office, watching the fallout unfold across every major news outlet. Turn on Channel 7, Tatum texted. Your mother's doing damage control. I flipped on the TV to see Mother, perfectly coiffed despite everything, sitting across from a morning show host. It's simply a misunderstanding, she was saying, her practiced smile firmly in place. Every family has their disagreements. Mrs. Catherine, the host interrupted, we have documents showing systematic misuse of charitable funds. Would you care to comment on that? Before Mother could respond, my phone rang. Father. Linda? He barked without greeting. Fix this now. I'll double whatever that foundation of yours is worth. It's not for sale, Father. Triple it, plus the summer house stays in the family. The summer house is already mine. The paperwork was finalized last week. He went quiet for a moment. You've always been stubborn, just like your mother. Funny, she always said I was cold and calculating, like you. The doorbell rang. Through my security camera, I saw Jordan standing there, looking surprisingly subdued in jeans and a sweater. I have to go, I told Father. My lawyer will be in touch about the foundation audit. I opened the door cautiously. Jordan's eyes were red and puffy. They're freezing my accounts, she said without preamble. All of them. Santiago's lawyers contacted the bank. That's not my problem. Please, Linda, I have nowhere else to go. Mother and Father are... She trailed off. Are what? They're being investigated. The foundation board called an emergency meeting. Everyone's resigning. I let her stand there for a moment, remembering all the times she'd watched me struggle without offering help. There's a Marriott downtown, I said finally. They take credit cards. My cards are frozen. Weren't you listening? Tears welled up. I'm your sister. You should have thought about that before trying to force me to pay your debts. I didn't know, she grabbed my arm. Mother said you'd agreed. She said you wanted to help. My phone buzzed again. Emma, don't trust her. Mother sent her. As if on cue, a black SUV pulled up. Mother stepped out, followed by two men in suits. Linda, she called out, these gentlemen would like to discuss a settlement. No discussions without my lawyer present. Don't be difficult, Mother snapped. We're trying to help you save face. I laughed. Save face? The truth is already out there. Santiago's evidence is with the SEC. The foundation's books are being audited. You can't buy your way out of this one. Think about Jordan's future. Like you thought about mine? One of the suits stepped forward. Ms. Linda, we're prepared to offer substantial compensation for your silence. My silence? I pulled out my phone and started recording. Please, tell me more about how you'd like to buy my silence regarding federal financial crimes. They backed away quickly. You've ruined everything, Jordan burst out. All my investors are pulling out of the new skincare line. Good, I said. Maybe you'll finally have to earn something on your own. Mother's perfect mask cracked. You ungrateful. Mrs. Catherine? A voice called from the street. We turned to see Sarah from the Business Journal holding up her press badge. Care to comment on the foundation board's mass resignation? Mother practically ran back to the SUV. The suits followed quickly. Linda, please, Jordan tried one last time. I'll do anything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the designer clothes and perfect highlights, she seemed small, lost. There's a program, I said finally, for young entrepreneurs. Real ones, not vanity projects. It starts next month at the incubator. If you're serious about learning actual business skills, you can apply. Apply? Like, compete for it? Yes, Jordan, like everyone else. She stared at me for a long moment before turning away. I watched her climb into the SUV, which peeled away from the curb. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Armstrong Family Foundation under federal investigation. Exclusive details inside. Then another text from Tatum. Netflix wants to do a documentary. Should I set up a meeting? I smiled, thinking about all the young women who would see it, who would recognize their own stories in mine. Set it up, I replied. Looking out at the morning sun, I felt lighter than I had in years. The truth hadn't just set me free, it had cleared the way for something better, something real. My phone buzzed one more time. Emma, ready to start interviewing for the incubator program? Ready, I typed back. Let's build something better than they ever imagined. 3 weeks after the gala, I stood at the podium in the newly renovated business incubator, formerly my family's summer house. The space was packed with young women, entrepreneurs, reporters, and supporters. Welcome to the first Armstrong Barlow Foundation launch event, I began, though I suspect we'll be dropping the Armstrong part soon. Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone had seen the news about my family's spectacular fall from grace. This space represents more than just a business incubator, I continued. It represents every woman who was told to dream smaller, to be quieter, to settle for less. Emma, standing near the front, gave me an encouraging nod. We've received over 500 applications for our first cohort. Today, we're announcing the 50 women selected. The back doors burst open. Jordan walked in, wearing a simple black dress instead of her usual designer gear. "Sorry I'm late," she said quietly, slipping into an empty seat. I paused, then continued. These 50 women were chosen not for their family connections or social status, but for their drive, their innovation, and their determination. Tatum appeared at my side with the presentation remote. The screen behind me lit up with faces and project descriptions. From sustainable fashion to medical technology, from educational software to urban farming, these entrepreneurs represent the future, a future built on merit, not manipulation. The crowd applauded. I spotted Santiago in the back, nodding approvingly. And now I gestured to the row of successful businesswomen seated on stage. Our mentors would like to say a few words. As the first mentor took the podium, a commotion near the entrance caught my attention. Mother was trying to get past security. "This is my family's property," she hissed. "You can't keep me out." "Actually," Emma approached her, "it's foundation property now, and you're not on the guest list." "I'm her mother." "Being family doesn't guarantee access anymore," I said into the microphone. "That's rather the point of all this." The crowd turned to watch. Mother's face flushed red. "You think you're so clever?" she spat. "But what happens when the novelty wears off? When these girls realize you're just using them for revenge?" A young woman stood up from the audience. "Ms. Linda isn't using us. She's the first person who actually believed in my business plan." Another rose. "She reviewed my proposal herself, gave me real feedback." "Helped me secure ethical investors," added a third. Mother's perfect mask cracked completely. "You ungrateful little—" "Security," Emma called calmly. "Please escort Mrs. Catherine out." As Mother was led away, Jordan remained in her seat, staring at her hands. I returned to the podium. Success isn't inherited. It's earned. Every woman in this room knows that. And together, we're going to prove it. The mentorship announcements continued. Near the end, a small girl, probably someone's daughter, tugged at my sleeve. "Are you a hero?" she whispered. I knelt down to her level. "No, sweetheart, I'm just someone who stopped being afraid of the truth." After the ceremony, Jordan approached me. She looked different, humbled maybe. "I submitted an application," she said, "under a different name. It was rejected. The selection committee is independent. I don't influence their decisions." "I know. That's why—" She took a deep breath. "That's why I'd like to apply for the next cohort, with a real business plan this time." I studied her face. "It won't be easy. No shortcuts. No family bailouts." "I understand. I've been I've been taking some online business courses, basic accounting, marketing." Before I could respond, Sarah from the Business Journal approached with her recorder. "Ms. Linda, could you comment on the SEC's findings regarding your family's foundation?" "Actually," I smiled, "I'd rather talk about our new entrepreneurs. Have you met Jessica? She's developing sustainable building materials from recycled ocean plastic." As I introduced the reporters to our first cohort of founders, I caught Emma's eye across the room. She raised her water glass in a subtle toast. My phone buzzed, a text from Tatum. "Netflix documentary crew arrives next week. Also, you're trending on Twitter again." I slipped the phone back into my pocket. The headlines could wait. Right now, watching these women network and share their dreams, I was exactly where I needed to be. "Ms. Linda?" Another young entrepreneur approached. "Could you look at my revised business plan?" "Of course," I said, leading her to a quiet corner. "Tell me everything." This was my real revenge, not destroying my family's reputation, but building something better from its ashes. Something true, something earned. And watching Jordan take notes in the back row, I realized some revelations come later than others, but they come all the same. The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as I stood outside my childhood home. Construction crews were finishing the conversion into the foundation's second location, our new mentorship center. "Coffee?" Emma appeared beside me, holding 2 steaming cups. "Thanks." I took a sip, watching the workers remove the last of the pretentious Armstrong Estate signage. "The Netflix documentary is trending at #1, she said, checking her phone. "The comments are interesting." "Let me guess. Mother's given another interview claiming I'm mentally unstable?" Actually, no. She and your father have gone surprisingly quiet since the SEC expanded their investigation. A familiar Tesla pulled into the driveway. Jordan stepped out, carrying a laptop and looking almost unrecognizable in business casual attire. I finished the market research report, she said, approaching us, and I think I found a gap in the sustainable cosmetics market that nobody's addressing. I raised an eyebrow. Show me. She opened her laptop, pulling up detailed spreadsheets and competitor analyses. See, everyone's focused on luxury organic products, but nobody's targeting middle-income consumers who want sustainable options. And your solution? Direct-to-consumer model, transparent supply chain, reasonable pricing. She clicked through her presentation. I've already contacted 3 ethical manufacturers. Emma whistled softly. This is actually solid work. I know you probably don't believe I've changed, Jordan said quietly. But those business courses, they opened my eyes. I never really understood what it meant to build something real. A black SUV screeched to a halt at the curb. Mother emerged, looking frantic. Girls, thank God you're both here. The board, they're selling everything. The main house, the cars, even my jewelry. Asset forfeiture, I explained calmly. That's what happens when you misappropriate charitable funds. But where will we live? What will people say? Maybe, Jordan suggested, we should worry less about what people say and more about what we actually do. Mother stared at her as if she'd grown a second head. Not you too. They've brainwashed you. No, Mother. They've taught me. There's a difference. Ladies? Tatum called from the front door. The documentary crew is here for final interviews, and Sarah from the Business Journal wants quotes about the Mentorship Center launch. Mother straightened her designer jacket. I'll handle the press. You're not authorized to speak for the foundation, Emma cut in. In fact, you should leave before security arrives. I'm still your mother. Yes, I said softly. But that doesn't give you the right to control our lives anymore. As if to punctuate my words, workers began installing the new sign, Next Generation, a Women's Business Center. You've destroyed everything we built, Mother cried. No, Jordan surprised me by speaking up. We're building something better, something real. You can either accept that or leave. Mother's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw past her perfect makeup to the scared woman beneath, someone who'd spent her whole life maintaining appearances at the cost of authenticity. The center has a financial literacy program, I found myself saying, open to anyone who wants to learn. She stared at me for a long moment before turning away, climbing back into her SUV without another word. That was kind of you, Emma observed after Mother drove away. Maybe, or maybe I just want her to see what real success looks like. Jordan closed her laptop. I should get back to work on these projections. The selection committee meets next week. You're really doing this? I asked. Competing for a spot like everyone else? Yes. She met my eyes. I want to earn something for once. Inside, I could hear the documentary crew setting up. Tatum was directing them to capture the transformation of the space, from a symbol of inherited privilege to a launchpad for earned success. Ready for the final interview? Emma asked. I looked at the building that had once represented everything wrong with my family, the facade, the expectations, the conditional love. Now it would help other women break free from similar constraints. Almost, I said. Just need to do one thing first. I walked to the old oak tree where Father used to measure our heights, marking them in pencil. The marks were still there, Jordan's always slightly higher, even when they weren't. Taking out my keys, I carved something new into the bark. Success grows from truth. Linda? Tatum called. They're ready for you. I turned away from the tree, ready to tell my story one last time. Not for revenge now, but for all the women who needed to hear it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you, it's building something better in its place.
I stared at my phone in disbelief, reading the message for the 5th time. My hands were trembling. Congratulations! You've been shortlisted for the Senior Marketing Strategist position. Interview tomorrow at 9 a.m. A job I hadn't even applied for, at one of the most prestigious companies in the city, where my brother Benjamin worked. I'm Leah, and that message would change everything I thought I knew about family loyalty. This is incredible, I exclaimed to my best friend Jasmine over FaceTime. But why such short notice? The interview's literally tomorrow morning. Maybe someone dropped out, Jasmine suggested, adjusting her glasses. Girl, this is your chance. You've been wanting to leave that soul-crushing agency for months. I nodded, already pulling up the company website. Benjamin must have recommended me. He's been there for 3 years now. A warm feeling spread through my chest. Despite our competitive childhood, maybe he finally saw my worth. The next morning, I arrived 45 minutes early, my portfolio polished and my navy blazer perfectly pressed. The lobby buzzed with energy, all glass and chrome and purpose. I smoothed my skirt for the 100th time when a tall man with silver hair approached. Ms. Watson, I'm Joseph from HR. Please follow me. The interview room felt colder than the Arctic. Joseph's expression remained frozen as he flipped through my portfolio, barely glancing at the award-winning campaigns I'd crafted. It says here you have experience in digital marketing, he said, his tone dripping with skepticism. But your resume shows gaps in social media strategy. I blinked. Actually, I led 3 viral campaigns last year. That's not what we've heard, he cut me off. We received some interesting feedback about your capabilities. My stomach dropped. Something wasn't right. The questions that followed were brutal, focusing on imaginary weaknesses and fabricated shortcomings. By the time I left the room, my confidence lay in shreds around my feet. Needing a moment to compose myself, I ducked into the bathroom on the executive floor. A wrong turn that would reveal everything. You should have seen her face, Benjamin's voice echoed from around the corner. When HR asked about those performance issues I mentioned, laughter followed. Man, that's cold, someone responded. Your own sister? Please, she's always been the golden child, thinking she's better than everyone else. Had to teach her a lesson, you know? Besides, we can't have her showing me up here too. My blood turned to ice. The portfolio I was clutching fell to the floor with a soft thud. Seriously though, the other voice continued, making up those complaints and arranging a fake interview. That's pretty harsh. It's called strategy, Benjamin replied smugly. Now she'll never try to get her foot in the door here again. I pressed my back against the cold wall, my heart hammering. The brother I'd grown up with, the one I'd helped through college breakups and career crises, had deliberately set me up to fail. My phone buzzed, a rejection email already. Thank you for your interest, but we've decided to pursue other candidates. Jasmine called minutes later as I sat in my car, trying to breathe normally. How did it go? Benjamin set me up. My voice cracked. He arranged a fake interview just to humiliate me. That snake. Jasmine's outrage crackled through the speaker. Please tell me you're not going to let him get away with this? I watched employees stream in and out of the building, my brother's words echoing in my head. The golden child. Had to teach her a lesson. My hands stopped shaking as a different kind of fire started burning in my chest. No, I said quietly. I'm not. What are you going to do? I straightened in my seat, watching Benjamin exit the building for his lunch break, laughing with his colleagues like he hadn't just betrayed his own sister. I'm going to prove him right, I said, my voice steady now. He thinks I'm better than everyone else. Fine. I'll show him exactly how much better I can be. And this time, I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it for me. Now that's the Leah I know, Jasmine said. Where do we start? I pulled out my laptop, opening a new document. First, we research. I'm going to learn everything there is to know about this company, their challenges, their competitors, their future plans. Benjamin thinks he knows strategy. He hasn't seen anything yet. As I drove away from the building that morning, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman staring back wasn't broken, she was awakened. Sometimes betrayal doesn't destroy you, it ignites something far more dangerous. Determination. 2 months after the fake interview disaster, I found myself standing in front of my bedroom mirror, adjusting a sleek black dress. Sticky notes and printouts covered every surface of my apartment. Company reports, news articles, and sustainability initiatives. I'd become a walking encyclopedia of Benjamin's company. You sure about this? Jasmine asked, perched on my bed. Crashing a charity gala is pretty bold. I'm not crashing, I corrected, applying a final coat of lipstick. I bought a ticket, legitimately, with 3 months' worth of coffee money. Best investment I've ever made. I grabbed my clutch. The company's CEO, Virginia, always attends this environmental gala. It's my chance to get noticed, the right way this time. The venue sparkled with elegant decorations and even more elegant people. I recognized faces from my research, board members, department heads, and there, Virginia Price herself, commanding attention in a deep green gown. Well, if it isn't my favorite stalker, a male voice said behind me. I turned to find a familiar face, one of the voices from that day in the hallway. Weston, I said, remembering his name from my research. Enjoying the party? He raised an eyebrow. You know my name? I make it my business to know things. I sipped my champagne. Like how your department's struggling with the new sustainability requirements. His smile faltered. How did you... The same way I know your team's missing deadlines because the current strategy ignores Gen Z's social media habits. I met his gaze. I'm Benjamin's sister, by the way. The one he tried to humiliate. Recognition flickered across his face. Look, about that day. Save it, I cut him off. I'm not here for apologies. I'm here because I have solutions your company needs. Before he could respond, a commotion near the stage drew our attention. Virginia was preparing to give her speech. The future of business lies in sustainable practices, she began. But sustainability isn't just about the environment. It's about sustainable relationships, sustainable growth, and sustainable social impact, I whispered along with her, having memorized her previous speeches. Weston shot me a surprised look. You really did do your homework. After the speech, I positioned myself near the drinks table, waiting for my moment. Virginia approached, and I deliberately reached for the same glass of water. Oh, I'm sorry, I said, withdrawing my hand. Please, go ahead, she smiled. I shook my head. Actually, I'd love your thoughts on something first if you have a moment. Your point about sustainable relationships resonated with me, especially regarding Gen Z consumer behavior. Her eyes sharpened with interest. Go on. Your recent initiatives are brilliant, but they're missing a crucial connection point. I pulled up a quick graph on my phone, one of many I'd prepared. See this engagement drop? It's not about the message, it's about the medium. Fascinating. Virginia leaned closer. And you are? Leah, I'm actually... Virginia. Benjamin's voice cut through the conversation like a knife. He appeared beside us, face flushed. I see you've met my sister. Your sister? Virginia's eyebrows rose. The one who interviewed for the marketing position. Benjamin's smile turned brittle. There must be some mistake. Leah was never seriously considered for... Actually, I interrupted smoothly, I'd love to formally present these findings to your team. The data suggests you're losing millions in untapped market potential. Virginia studied me for a long moment, then pulled out her business card. Email me your proposal. I'm intrigued. As she walked away, Benjamin grabbed my arm. What do you think you're doing? I pulled free. Proving my worth. Isn't that what you wanted? You're making a fool of yourself, he hissed. No, Benjamin. You already tried that approach, remember? I straightened my dress. Now I'm doing what you were always afraid I'd do. I'm showing everyone exactly what I'm capable of. Is everything okay here? Weston appeared at my side, his presence a silent warning to Benjamin. Perfect, I smiled. Benjamin was just leaving. As my brother stormed off, Weston turned to me. You should know, there's more going on in the company than what's public. The sustainability department is just the tip of the iceberg. What do you mean? He glanced around nervously. Not here, but if you're serious about this, I might be able to help. I studied him carefully. Why would you help me? Let's just say I'm not a fan of watching talent get crushed by ego. He handed me his card. Call me tomorrow. As I left the gala that night, Virginia's business card felt like it was burning a hole in my clutch. Phase 1 of my plan had worked better than I'd hoped, but Weston's warning echoed in my mind. I pulled out my phone to text Jasmine. "How did it go?" she asked immediately. "Better than expected," I replied, "but I think I just stepped into something much bigger than sibling rivalry." The coffee shop buzzed with morning energy as I waited for Weston. My laptop displayed the proposal I'd stayed up all night perfecting for Virginia. 3 empty cups testified to my dedication. "Someone's been busy," Weston said, sliding into the seat across from me. His tie was slightly crooked, and he had dark circles under his eyes. "Rough morning?" I asked. "Rough week. Benjamin's been on a warpath since the gala." He ordered an espresso. "But that's not why I asked to meet." I closed my laptop. "You mentioned something bigger going on." "The company's facing a crisis," he lowered his voice. "The sustainability initiative. It's failing. Bad numbers are being covered up, and Benjamin's department is right in the middle of it." My heart raced. "How do you know this?" "I work in data analytics. Numbers don't lie, even when people do." He pulled out his phone, showing me a spreadsheet. "See these discrepancies? Someone's cooking the books to hide massive losses in the green energy division. And Benjamin knows about this? He's not just aware, he's actively helping cover it up. Your brother's gotten very good at making bad things look good on paper." My phone buzzed. An email from Virginia. "Meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring your proposal." "Perfect timing," Weston said. "Virginia suspects something's wrong but can't prove it. Your presentation could be the perfect cover to expose everything." I shook my head. I wanted to prove my worth, not destroy my brother's career. "He didn't show you the same courtesy," Weston reminded me. Before I could respond, Jasmine burst into the coffee shop, waving her phone. "Leah, you need to see this." She thrust her phone at me. It showed an internal company memo, somehow leaked online. My heart stopped when I read it. "Previous hiring decisions under review," I read aloud. "All recent rejections to be reassessed for potential bias or misconduct." They're investigating the interviews. "Including yours," Jasmine said triumphantly. Weston cursed under his breath. "This changes everything. Benjamin will try to destroy any evidence of what he did." "He already tried destroying me," I said, my voice hard. "How'd that work out for him?" My phone rang. "Benjamin." I answered on speaker. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Me? I'm not the one who faked performance complaints and rigged an interview." "You have no idea what you're messing with," he hissed. "Back off, Leah, for your own good." "Or what? You'll try to humiliate me again?" "This isn't about you anymore." His voice cracked. "There are bigger things at stake, like the cooked books in your department," I shot back. The line went silent for a moment. "Who told you about that?" "You're not the only one who knows how to gather intel, brother." "Listen to me very carefully." His voice turned deadly serious. "You present that proposal tomorrow, and I'll make sure you never work in this industry again." I laughed. Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you. After hanging up, I turned to find both Weston and Jasmine staring at me. "That was badass," Jasmine grinned. "And dangerous," Weston added. "He's desperate now. Desperate people do stupid things." I opened my laptop again, pulling up my presentation. "Then we better make sure my proposal is bulletproof." We worked through the afternoon, Weston providing insider insights while Jasmine helped polish the delivery. By evening, I had something that would either make my career or blow everything wide open. "You sure about this?" Jasmine asked as we packed up. "Once you start this, there's no going back." "Benjamin crossed that line when he decided to sabotage me," I replied. "Besides, if what Weston says is true, this is bigger than our sibling rivalry. The company's sustainability claims affect real people making real investments." Weston touched my arm. "Be careful tomorrow. Benjamin might try something desperate." "Let him try," I said, but my confidence wavered as I remembered his threat. Later that night, as I rehearsed my presentation one final time, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Some family secrets should stay buried. Tomorrow's presentation would be a good time for a technical failure. I showed the message to Jasmine over FaceTime. "They're trying to scare you," she said. Don't let them win. I stared at my reflection in the darkened window, remembering the humiliation of that first interview. They already played their best card, and I'm still standing. What's the plan? I smiled, thinking of the backup drives and cloud copies of my presentation. Tomorrow, I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve, the truth in all its uncomfortable glory. As I set my alarm for the next morning, another text came through. Last warning, back out now. I typed back a single response. See you tomorrow, brother. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to a gladiator arena. My presentation USB stick weighed heavy in my pocket, one of 3 copies I'd brought, along with cloud backup. Jasmine's voice echoed in my head. Paranoid, maybe, prepared, definitely. The conference room door opened before I could reach for it. Benjamin stood there, looking perfectly composed in his designer suit. Good morning, sister dear, he smiled, all teeth. Need help setting up? I've got it covered, I replied, clutching my laptop closer. Insist, I insist. He reached for my computer. As head of the department, it's my responsibility to ensure everything runs smoothly. Step away from the laptop, Benjamin. Weston appeared behind me, coffee cups in hand. I'm handling the technical setup today, executive orders. Benjamin's smile flickered. Since when? Since Virginia specifically requested it this morning. Weston handed me a coffee. Speaking of which, shouldn't you be preparing your own presentation? As Benjamin stalked away, I whispered, Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Weston muttered. Look who's here. Joseph from HR walked in, his face as stern as I remembered from the interview. He was followed by several board members, then Virginia herself. Leah, Virginia smiled warmly. We're eager to hear your thoughts on our sustainability initiatives. I connected my laptop while Weston stood guard. The screen flickered to life, showing my title slide. So far, so good. Before we begin, Benjamin interrupted, I think it's important to note that my sister has no official capacity here. Your sister, Virginia cut in, has demonstrated remarkable insight into our challenges. Please, Leah, proceed. I took a deep breath and launched into my presentation. Your current sustainability program isn't just underperforming, it's actively misleading stakeholders. The room tensed. I clicked to the next slide, showing a graph. These are your published figures, I continued. And these, another click, are the real numbers, buried in subsidiary reports and creative accounting. Benjamin's chair scraped back. This is ridiculous. She has no access to internal... Actually, Weston stood up. These figures are accurate. My department verified them this morning. Virginia leaned forward, her eyes intense. Continue, Leah. I walked them through the discrepancies, the hidden losses, the manipulated data. With each slide, Benjamin's face grew paler. Joseph scribbled furious notes. Then my screen went black. Technical difficulties? Benjamin smirked. Funny thing about preparation, I smiled back, pulling out my USB. I always bring backups. Before I could plug it in, Benjamin snatched it. This is corporate espionage. She's trying to... Upload to cloud backup complete. Weston's voice rang out. He held up his phone. Everything's already shared with the board's secure server. Virginia stood up. I think we need a break. Benjamin, Joseph, my office, now. As they filed out, Weston touched my shoulder. You okay? I nodded, though my hands were shaking. Did you see his face? The face of someone watching their house of cards collapse? Yeah. He checked his phone. Jasmine's downstairs. She's been texting me updates about the company's stock price all morning. Why are you helping me? I finally asked. Really? Weston sat on the edge of the table. 2 years ago, I noticed similar discrepancies. Tried to report them. Benjamin buried my concerns and had me transferred to a dead-end position. I've been waiting for a chance to set things right. The door burst open. Benjamin stormed in, his composure shattered. Happy now, he snarled. You've ruined everything. You ruined it yourself, I replied. I just exposed the truth. The truth? He laughed bitterly. The truth is, you've always been like this. Little Miss Perfect. Always having to prove you're better than everyone else. No, Benjamin. The truth is, you've always been so afraid of being outshined that you'd rather cheat than compete fairly. Compete fairly, in this industry. He stepped closer. You have no idea how things really work. Actually, Virginia's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, Joseph behind her. I think Leah understands exactly how things should work. Benjamin, security will escort you to clear out your desk. You're firing me over some cooked numbers, over fraud, deliberate misconduct, and creating a hostile work environment. Virginia turned to me. Leah, we'll need you to stay. There's much to discuss. As security led Benjamin away, he stopped beside me. Congratulations, sis. You won. I hope it was worth destroying our family. I watched him leave, victory tasting more bitter than I'd expected. Weston squeezed my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said softly. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? Because it's not over yet, Virginia called from the doorway. We need someone to clean up this mess, someone who understands both the problems and the solutions. She smiled. Interested in a job, Leah? 1 week into my new role as Sustainability Strategy Director, I found myself staring at Benjamin's old office, now mine. The nameplate had just been changed, and the irony wasn't lost on me. Still feels surreal? Weston asked, leaning against the doorframe. Everything in here screams Benjamin, I said, picking up a framed photo of our family from his desk drawer. Mom, Dad, Benjamin and me at his college graduation. God, what am I going to tell our parents? They called the office again this morning, Weston said quietly. Benjamin hasn't been answering his phone. My stomach twisted. Have you heard anything? Just rumors. He's been spotted at competitor companies trying to... A commotion outside interrupted us. Benjamin's voice carried through the office. Where is she? Leah. I stepped out of the office to find my brother, disheveled and unshaven, being blocked by security. Let him through, I said. The guards hesitated but stepped aside. Benjamin stormed toward me, his tie loose and hair unkempt. Enjoying your victory? He spat. My apartment's being repossessed, my reputation's ruined, and Mum and Dad won't stop calling. You did this to yourself, I replied, but my voice wavered. Did I? He laughed harshly. You know what's funny? I only sabotaged that interview because I knew you'd be better at this job than me. And look, I was right. Benjamin, save it. You want to know what it feels like to be the family disappointment. Well, now I know how you felt all those years, living in my shadow. Your shadow? I stepped closer. I never lived in your shadow. You just convinced yourself I did. Really? Perfect Leah with her perfect grades and perfect career. Perfect, I exploded. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through college while you coasted on Dad's connections. I earned everything I have. The office had gone silent, everyone watching our family drama unfold. And now you've earned my life too, he said bitterly. Congratulations. That's enough. Virginia's voice cut through the tension. Benjamin, you're trespassing. You don't understand, he turned to her. She's my little sister. I was supposed to protect her, guide her. Instead, His voice broke. Instead, you tried to destroy her career, Virginia finished, and in doing so, revealed your own misconduct. Security, please escort him out. As the guards approached, Benjamin pulled something from his pocket, a USB drive. You think you found all the evidence? He dangled it. There's enough dirt on here to bury half the executive board. Weston stepped forward. Don't do this, man. Why not? My career's already over. Might as well go out with a bang. I moved between Benjamin and the guards. Wait, everyone, please give us a minute. When the others reluctantly backed away, I faced my brother. Remember when I was 10 and I broke Mom's favorite vase? I asked softly. He frowned. What? You took the blame, said you did it while playing ball inside. You were grounded for 2 weeks. You were crying, he said quietly. I couldn't stand seeing you cry. What happened to that brother, the one who protected me? His hand holding the USB drive trembled. He grew up, realized the world doesn't reward kindness. No, I took a step closer. He got scared of not being enough, just like I was scared when you sabotaged my interview. Leah. But we're not kids anymore, Benjamin. This USB drive, it won't fix anything. It'll just hurt more people, including yourself. Tears welled in his eyes. I don't know how to fix this. Start by giving me the drive. I held out my hand. Let me help you, like you used to help me. The office remained deathly quiet as Benjamin stared at the USB drive. Finally, his shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, he whispered, placing it in my palm. I'm so sorry, Leah. As security gently led him out, Virginia approached me. That USB drive could be valuable evidence, she said. I looked at the small device in my hand. Or it could be blank, a desperate man's last bluff. She studied me carefully. And if it's not blank, then maybe, I met her gaze, maybe there's a way to fix things without destroying more lives, including my brother's. Virginia nodded slowly. You have 1 week to propose a solution. Make it count. After she left, Weston touched my arm. You okay? I looked at the family photo still on my desk, then at the USB drive that could either salvage or shatter what remained of my relationship with Benjamin. No, I admitted, but I will be. First, I need to make a call. To whom? I picked up my phone. Our parents. It's time they knew the truth, all of it. The boardroom hummed with tension as I connected my laptop to the projector. Every executive seat was filled, including one by my father, who sat stone-faced beside Virginia. After my call home, he'd been appointed as an independent advisor to oversee the company's restructuring. You don't have to do this, Weston whispered, helping me set up. Yes, I do. I straightened my blazer. It's the only way forward. The door opened, and Benjamin walked in, escorted by security. He looked better than last week, clean-shaven, suit pressed. Our eyes met briefly before he took his assigned seat. Thank you all for coming, I began. Last week's revelations about our sustainability program exposed serious issues. Today, I'm presenting not just problems, but solutions. I clicked to the first slide. The USB drive my brother tried to use as leverage. I reviewed its contents. The fraud went deeper than we thought, but it also revealed opportunities. Benjamin shifted uncomfortably. Dad's expression remained unreadable. Instead of hiding our sustainability failures, I continued, we have a chance to transform them into industry-leading successes. Here's how. The next hour was the most intense of my career. I laid out a comprehensive plan, transparent reporting, innovative green technologies, and community engagement programs. With each slide, I could feel the room's energy shifting. This all sounds promising, Virginia interjected, but the cost will be offset by the tax incentives and increased investor confidence, I finished. Plus, we'll avoid potential SEC penalties, which would be substantial, Dad finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years in corporate law. The evidence on that drive could trigger federal investigations. Benjamin stood up abruptly. You showed him the files? She showed me everything, Dad replied, including your original interview sabotage, son. The room went silent. Benjamin's face flushed. The question, I pressed on, isn't about past mistakes. It's about future solutions. Benjamin? All eyes turned to my brother as I gestured for him to join me at the front. What are you doing? He whispered. Giving you a chance to fix this, I replied. You know these programs better than anyone. Help me make them work. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then, slowly, he turned to face the board. Leah's right, he said, his voice gaining strength. I helped hide these problems because I thought exposure would destroy us. But her plan, it could actually work. The renewable energy division I've been managing. We've been sitting on breakthrough technology, afraid to implement it because of cost concerns. He grabbed a marker, and started sketching on the whiteboard. If we redirect funds from these shell programs into actual development, for the next 30 minutes, Benjamin and I tag-teamed the presentation. It felt like we were kids again, finishing each other's sentences, building on each other's ideas. The board members leaned forward, engaged. "This is impressive," Virginia said finally, "but it requires complete transparency about past misconduct." "I'll take full responsibility," Benjamin straightened. "No more covers, no more lies." "Not alone, you won't," I interjected. "We do this as a team or not at all." Dad cleared his throat. "The board will need time to consider." "No," Virginia stood up. "We don't need time, we need action. Leah, Benjamin, you have full authorization to implement this plan, effective immediately." After the meeting, Benjamin caught my arm as others filed out. "Why?" he asked simply. "Because you were right about one thing. I am better at this job than you. But you're better at it than you think. We just needed to stop competing and start collaborating. I don't deserve this chance." "Probably not," I smiled. "Consider it payback for that vase." Dad approached us, his expression softening for the first time. "Your mother would be proud. Well, proud and horrified, but mostly proud." "Dad, Benjamin started. "Save it for dinner," Dad cut him off. "Your mother's cooking tonight. She expects both of you there. No excuses." As he left, Weston appeared with Jasmine, who'd been waiting outside. "So?" Jasmine bounced excitedly. "How did it go?" "We're about to find out," I nodded toward Virginia, who was walking over. "One question," Virginia said, looking between me and Benjamin. "Can you two actually work together without killing each other?" Benjamin glanced at me. "We managed not to for the first 20 years of our lives." "Most of them, anyway," I added. Virginia smiled. "Good, because you're both going to be very busy. The press conference is in 1 hour." As she walked away, Benjamin turned to me. "Press conference. Part of the transparency initiative," I grinned. "Hope you're ready to face the cameras, brother." "Together?" he asked, extending his hand. I took it. "Together." Camera flashes exploded as Benjamin and I walked onto the small stage in the company's press room. Virginia stood at the podium, commanding the attention of dozens of reporters. "Before we begin," Virginia announced, "I want to introduce our new leadership team for the Sustainability Division. Leah and Benjamin will be co-directing our renewed environmental initiatives." A reporter shot up his hand. "Is it true the previous sustainability reports contained fraudulent data?" Benjamin stepped forward before I could speak. "Yes," he said firmly. "And as the former department head, I take full responsibility for those misrepresentations." The room erupted. Cameras clicked frantically. "What we're announcing today," I cut in, "is not just an admission of past mistakes, but a revolutionary new approach to corporate environmental responsibility." "And we're supposed to trust the same leadership that covered up the problems?" another reporter challenged. "No," I replied. "You're supposed to verify everything we do from now on. That's why we're implementing total transparency protocols, including live data tracking accessible to the public." Weston, manning the presentation screen behind us, pulled up the new dashboard. Real-time sustainability metrics flickered across the display. "Starting today," Benjamin added, "every aspect of our environmental impact will be monitored and reported in real time. No more quarterly reports that can be manipulated, no more hidden data." A familiar face stood up, a journalist I recognized from my research. "Sources say there was internal conflict between you two. How can you lead together given your history?" I glanced at Benjamin, who nodded slightly. "My brother and I learned the hard way that competition without integrity destroys more than it builds," I said. "Our new approach is built on collaboration, not conflict." "And accountability," Benjamin stepped closer to the podium. 3 months ago, I sabotaged my sister's job interview out of professional jealousy. Today, she's showing all of us, a better way forward. The admission sent another wave of murmurs through the crowd. Dad, standing at the back of the room, gave us a subtle thumbs up. Virginia returned to the podium. We're announcing a complete restructuring of our environmental programs, including a $500 million investment in new green technologies. The questions flew fast after that. Benjamin and I tag-teamed the responses, each playing to our strengths. He handled the technical details, I managed the strategic vision. Together, we painted a picture of transformation that had the reporters leaning forward in their seats. Suddenly, Joseph from HR burst into the room, whispering urgently to Virginia. She frowned, then gestured for us to wrap up. "What's wrong?" I whispered as we left the stage. "Stock price is fluctuating wildly," Virginia explained, leading us to her office. "The market's not sure whether to panic about the fraud admission or celebrate the new initiative." Inside her office, Weston was already pulling up financial data. The numbers bounced between red and green. "We need to stabilize this," Benjamin said, loosening his tie, "before the shareholders panic. Already on it." I pulled out my phone, dialing Jasmine. "Remember that social media strategy we discussed? Launch it, now." Within minutes, our new transparency dashboard was trending online. Real investors were praising our honesty. Environmental groups were cautiously optimistic. The stock began to stabilize. "Impressive teamwork," Virginia smiled. "But the real test starts tomorrow. The board wants daily progress reports." "They'll have them," Benjamin promised. "No more secrets." As the crisis subsided, Dad appeared in the doorway. "Your mother's waiting. Family dinner, remember?" The drive home was quiet until Benjamin spoke. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to reveal some master plan to destroy me completely." "That was never my goal," I replied. "I just wanted to prove I belonged here." "You more than proved that." He smiled sadly. "I'm sorry it took all this for me to see it." Mom was waiting on the porch when we pulled up. Her eyes were red from crying, but she opened her arms to both of us. "My brilliant, stupid children," she hugged us tight. "Come eat before the lasagna gets cold." Inside, over Mom's legendary cooking, we began the harder work of rebuilding our family. The conversation was awkward at first, then gradually warmed as old stories and shared memories broke down the walls we'd built. "A toast," Dad raised his glass, "to second chances, and third and fourth," Mom added, making us laugh. My phone buzzed, a message from Virginia. "Stock closed up 3%. Well done, both of you. Ready for tomorrow?" I looked at Benjamin, who was helping Mom clear the dishes, chatting animatedly about the new solar panel technology we'd be implementing. "We're ready," I texted back. Then, after a moment's thought, added, "All of us," because sometimes, I realized, the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about transforming them into an ally. The autumn breeze rustled through the rooftop garden as I inspected the new solar panels. Our sustainability showcase had become my favorite spot in the building, a living testament to the changes we'd implemented. "There you are," Jasmine called, stepping out of the elevator. "The documentary crew is waiting downstairs." "Tell them I need 5 minutes. You said that 20 minutes ago." She joined me at the railing. "Nervous about the interview?" "Not nervous, just..." I gestured at the garden, taking it all in. The door opened again, and Benjamin appeared. "The crew's getting restless. Also, Virginia wants us to review the quarterly numbers before the interview." I pulled out my tablet, showing him the latest data. "Already done. We're up 40% across all environmental metrics. Look at you two," Jasmine grinned, "actually working together without trying to commit corporate homicide." "The day is still young," Benjamin joked, but his smile was genuine. My phone buzzed, a text from Mum. "Good luck today. Dad and I are recording the interview." "Love you both." "We should head down," Benjamin said, checking his watch. "Ready to tell our story?" I took one last look at the garden. "Almost. There's something I need to say first." He raised an eyebrow. "Sounds ominous. I found this in my desk yesterday." I pulled out a crumpled paper, his original complaint about my job interview. "The one that started everything." His face fell. "Leah, I'm framing it. What? It's going on my office wall, I explained, to remind me that sometimes our worst moments can lead to our best opportunities. Benjamin was quiet for a moment. I have something for you too. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. My official promotion recommendation. You're being considered for COO. I stared at the envelope. But that was your goal. You've been working toward that position for years. And you're better suited for it, he said simply. I've learned to recognize that now. Jasmine cleared her throat. As touching as this is, we really need to— One more minute, I promised, turning back to Benjamin. Remember what you said at that first press conference, about competition without integrity? He nodded. Well, I'm not taking the COO position unless we're both up for consideration. Fair competition this time. You'd risk losing it. I'd risk winning it the right way. I held out my hand. Partners? He clasped it firmly. Partners. The documentary interview went smoothly. We sat side by side, telling our story. The sabotage, the revenge, the redemption. The interviewer seemed particularly interested in our current dynamic. So you've completely forgiven each other? She asked skeptically. Forgiveness isn't a destination, I replied. It's a daily choice. Like sustainability, it takes constant work and commitment. And trust, Benjamin added, which has to be earned back one day at a time. After the crew packed up, Virginia called us into her office. Weston was already there, grinning. The board just approved your joint proposal, Virginia announced. The international expansion of our sustainability program is green-lit. Both of us? Benjamin asked. Both of you, she confirmed. They were impressed by how you've turned rivalry into partnership. Speaking of which, she slid 2 folders across her desk. These are your COO candidacy papers. The board wants to consider you both. I caught Benjamin's eye and smiled. Looks like we get our fair competition after all. About that, Weston interrupted. The board had an interesting idea. They're considering splitting the COO role. One focusing on operations, one on innovation. They can do that? I asked. Virginia nodded. They can when they have 2 exceptional candidates who work better together than apart. Later, as Benjamin and I rode the elevator down, he turned to me. You know, when you first came back for revenge, I thought you were going to destroy everything I'd built. I did too, I admitted. Funny how things work out. Mum's planning a celebration dinner, he said. Says she's inviting the whole family, including Aunt Susan, the one who always asks when we're getting married. Especially her. He grinned. Consider it karma for all the times I threw you under the bus at family gatherings. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, where Jasmine and Weston were waiting. Ready for dinner? Jasmine asked. I looked at my brother, my rival turned partner, and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with revenge or victory. Actually, I said, we're ready for whatever comes next, because sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding a better way forward, together.